Hey y'all, what's going on? What's going on? I think that we need to have a conversation about control, real control, what you can actually control. I mean, the thing that you're actually responsible for doing, and that is what comes next. You cannot control what other people are thinking about. You can't control what other people are going to do. But as a person myself who likes to listen to understand, sometimes we have to take it upon ourselves to actually address the things that we actually hear. So I don't want to delay any further from that. Let's get started. Why don't we?
Welcome to Opinionated with Resla.
What's good, everybody? What is good? Welcome, of course, to another episode of Opinionated with yours truly. I'm your guy, Resla. Last show's conversation was supposed to be about personal growth, about making internal choices about how to be better. But instead of the conversation being on responsibility, it kind of got hijacked. The discussion itself got hijacked. It was filled with grievances, unrelated rants, and personal vendettas. And leading that derailment was the 10th man. Now, I like to let people respond and pull the point because I never know where they're going to land or where they might be having something that's actually pretty impactful. But rather than engaging in the actual topic, he turned the discussion rather into a venting session, something that he said he wasn't going to do, but he did regardless. It was about people he didn't like, people he felt that was dealing with past betrayals, Trump, and even somehow the COVID vaccine. What did any of that have to do with self-improvement? To me, nothing. But that's the problem. When given the chance to reflect, some people, not everybody, it depends on what the circumstances are and how we currently feel, but some people choose to deflect instead. It's easier to blame, to complain, and to rage about the world rather than to ask, what can I do differently? If you can't focus on yourself in quite frankly a discussion about being better, what does that really say? If every opportunity for any of us when it comes to growth turns into finger pointing, what progress can we say that we've even made? This was never supposed to be about getting things off your chest. Although I have no problem listening to what people have to say because we have to listen to understand. But the conversation was really always about looking in the mirror. And if you spent a lot of that time doing anything but that, quite frankly, you missed the entire point. The first thing I want to talk about when we get into our first segment is about the hard truth about personal responsibility. But before we even get started with that, I want to, of course, thank everybody who already walked into the building. This is a little bit of a later stream than what we usually do. But I do want to thank you guys for walking in. Dominic was also in here. I appreciate it. He came in here really early. James, I saw you in here. Panelverse is up in here. I appreciate it. And as you guys start pouring in, just give your hellos and everything so that everybody can be able to understand that you're here, so everybody can be able to respond back to you. So I want to talk about the hard truth about personal responsibility. When you sit down, you have to have a conversation about be better. This is the whole point that I even tried to have the conversation yesterday about it. You can expect that when you're having a conversation about being better, you have to expect that the focus should be on self-improvement, about self-awareness, and it should always be about how can you challenge yourself? How can we all challenge ourselves to grow? That was the point of the last show's panel. That was the whole point of the last show's conversation, or what should have been the conversation. That was the goal, at least. But instead of discussing what means that we can actually go about internally for ourselves to improve, what it means to even take ownership of one's own life, and what exactly does it mean to make better choices, the conversation took a hard left. It went left real quick. We ended up hearing about betrayal, grudges, politics, even the jab, all wrapped up in anger and blame. And it raised a fundamental question. Why do so many people struggle to focus on themselves? The reality is that taking responsibility is uncomfortable, ladies and gentlemen. It really requires looking at yourself honestly, no filters, without excuses, and without the safety net of blaming others. And let's be real, a lot of people aren't ready to do that. It's easy to complain about how someone else has wronged you rather than just admit that maybe you didn't set proper boundaries. It's easier to talk about how the world is unfair than acknowledge that maybe you made choices that led to where you are. It's easier to bring up an entirely unrelated political or even social issue than to sit down in discomfort of realizing that your own mindset might be the problem. This isn't about one person going off the rails in a discussion. It's not. It's about the human tendency to deflect. How often do people actually engage in self-reflection? How often do people take a moment to ask, what am I doing wrong? Instead of, who did me wrong? If you find yourself consistently shifting conversations away from yourself and onto external problems, that's a sign that you aren't ready to take real responsibility. And that's exactly what happened on the previous panel. A conversation meant to push people towards self-betterment got hijacked by someone who was more interested in venting rather than involving. And this brings us to an important truth. Personal responsibility is not just about admitting that you make mistakes. It's about being intentional in how you choose to engage with the world. If you can't even stay on topic in a discussion about, quite frankly, growth, how do we expect to actually grow ourselves? If every serious conversation about change becomes a session about finger pointing, when do we ever start taking control of our own lives? That's the problem that we're addressing today. People want the illusion of self-improvement, but they don't want to do the hard work. They want to feel like they're having deep, meaningful change. But do they actually look in the mirror when it's time? So I'll ask you. Rather, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you took full responsibility for the choices that you've made without blaming external circumstances? When was the last time you sat in your discomfort of realizing you were wrong? If you can't remember, then maybe it's about time you stop looking at other people and what other people are doing and start asking what you need to do differently. We were talking about on our last one, we said, what? We need to start asking ourselves the right questions. That's what we were getting into. I want to thank everybody that's already walked into the building. I see Alexandra's up in here. What's going on? Lady Luck. I see Lady Luck up here. Thank you for stopping by. And since we got into this whole thing that kind of just shifted. Oh, what's good, CJ? CJ's up in the building. I want to talk about deflection. Deflection, the ultimate cop-out. People don't like being uncomfortable. Nobody does. The brain, your brain is literally designed to make you do things to get away from being uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. And people definitely don't like being confronted with their own flaws. That's why deflection is such a powerful tool. It allows people to feel engaged in this discussion without actually participating in anything and within an actual meaningful way. Instead of answering the tough questions, or at least trying to tackle them, people pivot. Instead of confronting our own issues, our own behaviors, people highlight someone else's. Instead of us thinking more critically about our situation, a lot of us wind up going on autopilot. And we repeat the same arguments that make us fall back on the very things that put us in the situation that we were currently in when we thought that we need to make some changes. It's not easy to break a habit. You have to actually come up with repetitions in order to break a habit. That doesn't mean every habit is bad, but in order to form new habits, you have to keep doing things differently to form a new habit, to reshape your mind. Just like how people got into the idea of deflections. Deflection is what happened on that panel. Conversation was supposed to be about personal growth yet again. Yet somehow, we ended up talking about all the things that didn't need to be. Why? Because facing ourselves is sometimes very hard, very difficult. And if given the opportunity, most people will change the subject before they even have a chance to do the right thing for themselves. But here's the thing. Deflection doesn't solve everything. It doesn't fix your problems. It doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't get you any closer to the truth. All it does is give you a temporary relief from discomfort, from looking in the mirror. Deflection is an addiction. Let me say that again for you in case you didn't really understand that. Deflection is an addiction. Sorry, Lady Luck. I turned Nightbot. I should really turn Night back on. I haven't turned on Nightbot in a couple of days. I think one of most common ways, let me say it that way. I think one of the most common ways people deflect is by shifting blame. If someone challenges them on, say, a personal behavior, they don't respond with actual introspection. I think people, they tend to respond with, well, what about this other person? If someone asks them about their own choices, they immediately start talking about why society is broken, why other people have it easier. And here's where things get really interesting. Some people, do this so often that they don't even genuinely realize that they're doing it. They don't even understand that they're avoiding responsibility that now is becoming ingrained. It's a reflex. If you want to actually improve people, and that goes for all of us, all human beings, you have to start catching yourself in these moments. The next time you feel defensive in a conversation, I need you to pause. Take a pause. Ask yourself, am I actually addressing the issues, or am I just changing the subject to make myself feel more comfortable? The truth is, people who always deflect will never grow. Because you can't fix a problem that you refuse to acknowledge. A thing that we hear on the internet is accountability is kryptonite. Well, deflection is an affliction. It's an addiction. So why don't we just make things more simpler for ourselves? If your first reaction is to react to difficult questions in a way that you want to talk about someone else's failures, you're not being honest with yourself. And if you're not being honest with yourself, you can't get mad if you're staying stuck forever. What do you guys' thoughts on that? Give me your thoughts on that. Hey, what's going on? I agree. I'm making nothing of myself. Oh my gosh. And I get if people are debating emotionally, because some people get passionate. The same way how people can get very passionate in arguments. Arguments are a natural part of conversations. They are. Not everybody is going to be able to compose themselves or just have this idea of the person who is right is the one who's stoic. That's not it. It's the person who thinks logically, who is the most rational. I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. So when the burdens are placed, okay. I want to talk about the responsibility mindset, since we're getting into responsibility. Why some people get better and others don't. Personal growth is a choice. It's not something you just wake up and aha, I'm better. It's a choice. Some people actually work to improve, actively work to improve. Some people just spend their lives repeating the same old cycles. The difference between the two groups of people is mindset. The people who grow, they're the ones who take responsibility for themselves no matter what. Again, you can't control what happens. You can't control what somebody else is thinking. You can't even control how you feel. Let me say that again. You can't even control how you feel, By the time you notice it, it already took place. But what you can control is what you do next after the feeling. You can get mad, but then when you notice you're mad, you can choose not to be aggressive. When you're annoyed, but you can choose whether you wish to remain annoyed. I think the ones that stay the same, are the ones who pretty much make a lot of excuses. They look for all the external scapegoats. Think about the most successful, well-adjusted people that you might know. Now we're not talking about billionaires and corporate. I said the people that you know. They're not the ones who are around blaming themselves or blaming other people or the world for all their problems. They're not doing that. There aren't the ones that are avoiding tough conversations. They're the ones who say, okay, here's where I am, and here's what I gotta do to move forward. Meanwhile, some people like to stay stagnant. They're the ones who are constantly caught up in drama, personal vendettas. And let's just be honest, folks, pointless debates that change nada. I would say that if you are serious about personal growth, you need to adopt a responsibility mindset. And that means every time something goes wrong, you don't waste time complaining. You figure out how to handle it in the best way that you can as your next step. It means that when you are confronted with a hard truth, don't deflect. Actually listen. Even if you don't agree, it's your job to listen. It means that when you feel the urge to complain about the state of the world, stop and ask yourself, what am I going to do to improve my own situation? Because if your answer is nothing, you're just wasting energy. At the same point, you have to make a decision whether you even want to stay in the cycle of blaming, of ranting, and even making excuses, or whether you actually want to be better. Because that's the choice. The first question is, do you even want to get better? In order to be better, in order to do better, you have to first want change. Do you even really want to change? Because some people just believe that they are enough. This is why I also say things when you guys have heard me say this, I'm going to say it again. Who you are to be, you are now becoming. You can't become something new, something better, if you're okay with who you are right now. If who you are right now is enough, there's no way to improve. There's no way to get better. You're no different from the women that we see on social media that say, I'm a 10. So there's no room for improvement. I'm an alpha. So there's no room for improvement. Go figure. And let's talk about the cost of avoiding accountability. Because when people avoid personal accountability, it doesn't just affect them. It actually affects everyone around them. Everyone around them. People who refuse to take responsibility bring chaos into relationships, into friendships, into workspaces, into communities. They actually drain people around them because they're always looking for someone else to take the fall for their problems. And eventually, people get tired of that shit. There's a reason why people who lack accountability struggle to maintain long-term healthy relationships. Because they never own their shit. They never actually admit that they make mistakes. which means that they never actually learn. And if you don't learn, guess what you do? Repeat. And if you repeat the same old ish over and over, people will eventually start distancing themselves from you. And not for nothing, if you're always on repeat, what do we say the definition of insanity is? That's the price of refusing to take responsibility, folks. It doesn't just keep you stuck. It pushes everyone away. I guess the final question I would have is, what are you actually doing to be better? Because that's what we were talking about yesterday. So after everything that we've talked about, the real question still leans on this. Are you actually doing anything to be better, to do better? Or are you just going through the motions, having the same old conversations, making the same excuses, blaming the same people? Because if you want change, the first step is to first admit that you want to be responsible for your own life and nobody else's. And once you accept that, once you acknowledge that piece, everything else will begin to fall into place. Because that means it literally, you get to the point where you stare, when you get into the mirror, you look at yourself, you'll start asking yourself, why is it you're not giving yourself 100%? You're wondering why your life is still running on 50% results because you've only been giving yourself 50% effort. So I'm going to leave you with this. The best life you have is the one you've got right now. Not the one you want to pretend to have, not the one you dream to have in the future. The best life you have is the current one that you are holding on to now. And my question to add to that will be, how have you contributed to it? What you have is what you qualify for. But those are my thoughts. Some people might actually disagree. That's what I think. You tell me what you think. Link is, of course, in the chat, pinned to the top of the chat. I'm interested to know what you guys are thinking. Way too much. Doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah, expecting different outcomes. Let me know if you're good, CJ. What's going on, man?
What's up, dude? Yeah, I hear you great.
Awesome. What are your thoughts on what I've been
Am I
saying
the
so
only
far?
person up here? Hold on.
So far.
I don't know. I didn't have a thought planned for any of this. I just popped in a few minutes ago, but so far, okay. I'm duplicating back. What is going on? That's my other tab, and that's on my own fault. I'm sorry. Okay.
Take your time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember what you were saying. Um,
That might help. I mean,
I don't know. I get derailed from these kind of things. I look retarded. I'm aware of that.
All right. So let me ask a question. So a question, and then we'll move from there. If you had to name one thing that you've been avoiding taking responsibility for in your life, what would it be?
Not willing to play by the system's rules would be my one thing. I'm not willing at all because the system's fucked up and it's obvious. And anybody that votes is complicit. How about that?
Now, how does that help you?
It doesn't. It doesn't help me at all. It's just the right thing to do.
No, you didn't do anything. You just talked
No,
about
it's
other
just,
people.
I did the right thing. Is what I did. Do the next right thing. Isn't that what they teach us in AA? How can you blame me for being like that? That's what these people forced me into. And now I have that train of thought, and now you want to
Uh,
shame me for having that train of thought. You
you you
forced
you
me
say you
into it.
say AA, right? But there's a
Yeah,
way that
I
there's a
do.
way that you got into AA. That was
Yeah.
nobody else who
How's
did
that?
that to you.
How's that?
How did you get into AA?
How did I get into AA? The court forced
Did
me.
someone
Were they wrong?
did someone
Possibly.
did someone force you
Possibly.
to take substances?
Were they wrong? Possibly.
Because I don't hear anything about personal responsibility in that. I
There,
hear
there was
blaming other
none.
people. Governments have always been here. They will always be
And,
here.
well,
But
then they
what does
need
that
to
have to
get
do
better.
about
They need
personal
to do better.
responsibility?
They need to do better. Then. That's
How
all I'm
about
saying.
you need to do better?
I've done
Because
as better as I can do. And if my
so
better if my better isn't good enough for these people, then they need to appreciate the fuck out of their imports. That's all
I
I
don't
gotta
think
tell them. That's all I
I
gotta
personally
tell
don't
them.
think so because now you're saying that
I did the best I could do.
you're
It
better.
wasn't
You're
enough.
better is the
Clearly,
best,
it
and
wasn't
it should get
enough, or I'd
accepted.
have my wife and kids right now. We're gonna get into a real like teary conversation. You push this road, but that's fine. I'll do it.
Listen. You sure know what my rules are. We can get into it, but quite frankly, if we're talking about personal responsibility, shifting the blame onto other people is
Yeah,
not taking accountability
I
for
get that.
oneself.
I get that. That's not a good quality.
It's it's not one that you can redeem.
Yeah, well, I got kids to make. I don't give a fuck what the system says is good for me or good for anything. I got kids to make. I'm doing what I gotta do to get them here, and I'm gonna pursue that until I die. The end.
And you
That's
don't
it.
think that a shift in mindset might make you get
Ain't no
closer to
shift
that.
in mindset at this point. Ain't no shift in mindset.
So what I am hearing,
No shift in mindset.
what it
Yo,
appears that I am
yo,
hearing is that you are motivated to do nothing more.
I'm motivated by
No,
procreating my
you're
genes. I'm
motivated to
motivated
not
by
push
there
yourself
being more
forward.
people like me on this earth that are good people.
You
That
have
is
to
what I'm motivated by.
you
I'm
have
not
to prove
motivated by whatever
that.
the fuck these people on these
I
screens
I
tell
hate to
me
tell you this.
I'm
I hate
supposed
to
to
say
be
this.
motivated
The
by.
only
And I'm
the
sorry to
only people who
disrespect you
can
right now,
determine that you're the
but
only
it's
people who
needed.
could determine that you're a better person are other people.
No.
I
I,
never,
I am.
I
I am.
never
And I've
listened to you.
determined I'm a better person than these
I
people.
never listened
I am.
wholeheartedly to anyone that would turn around and say that
I have
I'm
determined
a
I'm a
great
better
person.
person than these
That
people
needs
they
to come
feed
from
money
other
to.
people.
I
That's
have.
how we learn about
I
other
have.
people.
Me. Put it on me. Put it on me. Me. I have. Do something
Eric,
about it.
what's going on?
It's correct, Reza. Just want to give props. Like this is a very, very good topic because it's a kind of a cancerous mentality that you see not only through ideologues but also like nations and stuff like that as well. So as an Irishman, like the typical kind of response is, "Oh, it's the British fault." You know, they were the ones
Timing,
that
ain't it?
caused they caused the famine. They're the ones that like they're the reason why we went to civil war and all this kind of shit. But it's like this whole thing of like it's a lot easier, and this is why it's such a like a seductive kind of like cancerous
A 20-year
mentality,
old is about to
is
teach
because
me.
it can
You understand
basically
that, right?
like infect your brain because it basically just gives you always you have that out to blame
He
someone
thinks
else
he knows
rather
shit.
than like you were saying
That's
to
the
actually
problem.
kind of
That's
like
the
judge
real problem.
yourself
He
and
thinks he
hold
knows
yourself
shit.
to a standard.
Did he even mention you? Are you
I have
listening to
no
understand?
idea
Or are you
what the
listening to
fuck he said.
respond?
I stopped listening as soon as I saw his face. I know better. He's taught me through his appearances here on the internet. I should not listen to him. He's pushing a narrative. Then Just
What
like your
narrative am I
black,
pushing?
just like your black man
narrative did
told
he
me on the
push?
last panel that I was just on.
Is
What-
his last did his last panel discuss this conversation?
Man, you know what I'm saying. Okay,
No.
it did not.
Did his last
No,
panel?
it did not.
I see. CJ, I wasn't on his last panel. I don't know what they were
I
talking about.
understand.
Is his
I
last panel
understand the
talking about
game.
this
I get
conversation?
it. You were not on the last panel, sir. I agree with you.
That's another thing I do on the internet. Don't drag other grievances onto other people's platforms.
Well,
But I sincerely doubt he even knows what I talk about on my panels. But it's this kind of,
I'm
like I
just
said,
dumb,
it's a good
right? I'm
representation
just
of
dumb.
like the actual self-defeation. It's like, I know better. I don't need to listen to outside influence. When
You're a
someone's telling you
child.
the truth, this is why
You're a
Myron Gaines gets so
child.
much shit. But like when you actually kind of
You're a
analyze, like
child.
why would he
Boy.
bother to actually
You're a
like sit these
child.
women
Let me
down
start doing
and
the
tell them
black.
the truth?
You're a child, boy.
It doesn't make any
You're a
sense.
fucking child, boy.
How
What age am I? What age am I
You're
then?
a child, boy.
how-
You
What
ain't
age am
no
I?
shit. Go
What good is
fucking
that?
go and tell that shit to somebody who gives a
Yeah.
fuck.
What
Is
what
what I
age am
would
I?
tell you.
What age am
You're
I?
a child, boy.
What age am I?
I don't give a fuck what age you are. I can see
Yeah,
your
so
face.
you're making claims you can't even back
I
up.
can see your face. I know you ain't old enough to tell me shit. Go tell somebody.
Okay, so then what age
who
am I then?
gives a fuck.
What
That's
age am I?
What age is that where someone can tell you something? Because someone can be wise and they can
I want to
say
point back. I
younger
want
than
to
me.
point back
That's
to
not really-
what I want to
So
point
what?
back to the
indicated by
actual title
age.
of the stream. I
Again.
want to point back to the actual title of the stream, and everybody make their own consensus, whether you're in the chat or whether you're in the panel.
And that's what they
When
want.
the point
That's
is
what they want.
missed.
Let's let them have it.
When the point is missed.
Tell me again. What are you people trying to say to me?
We can't say anything to you if you don't.
I
even
know.
listen.
I know that already.
So
I know
here's what
that
I would do. Here's what I would do. Not waste my breath.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to.
Mhm.
Crucify me.
And not to mention, folks, the only way a person is being crucified is if they were labeled as being important. Jesus was crucified because he was important. He was dangerous for what he did. Not because he did not listen. In fact, he listened a lot. How's it going, Lady Luck?
Hello, Resla. Hello, panel guests and chat.
Hello.
Hi. So it's very important to self-reflect and realize where you've made mistakes. Although like I said in the chat, I let it out here one time, but at the same time, I always self-reflected and realised my mistakes. And my mistake was I didn't set clear boundaries. And Resla knows what I'm talking about. But my mistake, I feel, was that I didn't set clear boundaries. And I'm actually willing to give that person a chance at, coming on my panel again. And, after some self-reflection, but at this point, I'm not so sure that that's going to happen anytime soon. And to me, it's a bit of a shame. It's actually a bit sad to see it.
Well, as I already highlighted earlier today, people make their own decisions, but you can only do better when you first acknowledge and admit that there's more room for you to grow. If you decided that you are enough, then you can't be more.
Absolutely.
This is why I'm going to keep repeating it, because I said it and it was the best thing that was taught to me by my own mentor. Who you are to be, you are now becoming.
That's it.
If you think you're enough, there's no growth. And if there's no growth, but you keep aging, that's a shame.
Well, my dad had a saying that in life you never stop learning even till your last breath. And it's very true. And that includes learning about yourself.
It's only true if you can accept. It's only true if you can accept that there's always something to learn.
Well, I accept that, you see, because I believe there is always something to learn, not just about the world, but about yourself.
If you believe there's nothing else to learn because you feel like you know enough.
Well, that's your stumbling block if you do that.
And that's not very wise either.
No, it's not, because there's so much to learn. Like I said, not just about the world, but about yourself and your
Well,
journey through life.
I will say to each their own, because quite frankly, everybody reaches their low point at some point. I know a lot of people think that they're at a low point, but there's always a deeper hole to fall into.
Yeah.
Some people think that they're at their lowest, and they really, like, I've had people turn around and say, "I'm at my low point. I can't do this. I can't do that." I'm like, "You got a roof over your head? Yeah. You pay bills for it? No. You got more than what other people have."
And that's a
Yeah.
key thing as well. You brought up, like, I can't do this, I can't do that. Then what can you do? That needs to be the question or the frame that you need to go about. What options do I have? What hand do I have in front of me to play with? Do you know what I mean? All you need is a chip and a chair.
Can I make? I
It's
mean,
about
not
self.
for nothing. Yeah, but not for nothing. Even for, like, even when you're dealing with, say, you're dealing with a situation. Sometimes they have a saying. Sometimes you got to take a step back for a comeback.
That's it. Absolutely.
They say that, I even, like, there's a motivational speaker by the name of Les Brown, right? He says, if you fall, make sure you fall on your back. You don't want to fall on your face. Make sure you fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, when you hit the bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's up.
Yep.
But you got to believe it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true
all
as
about
well.
that being motivated. Yep.
I think a lot of people self-talk themselves out of things. Instead of saying, I can do this, they're like, oh, I can't do this because, and they start making up a lot of reasons why they can't do things.
CJ, you're not a bad man. You're not a bad man. The only one who can call you a bad man is yourself. Because guess what? Regardless of what you do, it wouldn't shape me, and it wouldn't shape other people. It's a personal mindset. I don't point and call and say, look at this person and look at that person, and I think this and that, and this person this. I'm not concerned with other people. I only have to be concerned with the choices I have to make, not the choices that other people make. The points that I was making in this very episode. I might even be annoyed by people, but I can choose how I react to that. I can't stop myself from getting annoyed. I can choose if I wish to display an outburst, if I wish to address them, if I choose not to address them. That's my personal choice. Me getting annoyed, I can't control. What's good,
100%. And I'd even say it's oftentimes your own ego that prevents you from actually being able to take in that new information, to do the self-reflection, because there's always that kind of, we can point to numerous ideologies like socialism. It's the rich man's fault. He clearly just, like, robbed all these people, and that's how he got his wealth, rather than actually taking in the information, understanding capitalism, saying, no, he actually provided value. People paid for that value because they saw the value in it, and that's how he made his money. And that's why I say, like, capitalism is a beautiful thing, because it's one of the most freeing things, because it takes something that's like our corruption, our greed, and it forces the greed to be able to participate. That's what we have, like, all this, like, global trade, like, nations that don't necessarily share the same ideologies, but they're able to do business together because you've taken something that's like, demonic in nature, and basically made it into something that's divine. We can look at, like, feminism. It's the man's fault and all this kind of shit, but it's like, hang on a second, why did you go out and you got, like, shit-faced drunk, and then you went home, you had a one-night stand, and now you feel terrible about it. It was your own action. You chose to go out and drink that much. You chose, and I'm not trying to, because obviously there's a lot of bad men out there that will try to take advantage of, they spike drinks, all that kind of shit. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the whole kind of like raking up the body counts of consensual, all this kind of thing. That, like I said, I brought up like Ireland, for example. Oh, it's the British man's fault. You can take the same like Irish mentality, apply it to African Americans, and it's the same thing of like just replace British man with white man, and it's the same thing. Whereas I have a scapegoat here, that any problems that I go through, I can just shift it to that group. They're the ones that are oppressing me, rather than actually confronting, saying, well, what situation am I in? Have I actually set a budget out? Am I adhering to that budget? And am I, as a capitalist, am I using that capital that I'm saving to actually invest in something, for example, like Bitcoin or whatever, to actually improve my funds and get out of the situation that I'm in? I think Dave Chappelle was the one that he was talking about. He had a conversation with his dad, and his dad sat him down. He's like, listen, like poverty is a mentality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And a lot of points that you just made that was even brought to home in this particular in my particular segment, my monologue, was personal responsibility, but also people who deflect. Now, apparently, clearly, he ain't black enough. Why did this go to race? Why did that come out your mouth? That's a deflection tactic. That's not taking personal responsibility. But I want to bring to the channel, to the panel, due diligence. Thank you for coming in. NPC the game. What's going on, guys?
How's it going, Resla? Resla,
Hi, NPC.
good to see you, brother. Yeah. What's up,
Hi,
everybody?
NPC.
How's it going?
Hello.
How's it going? How's it going? Good to
Going
see y'all.
okay.
Yeah, good. I mean, it seems like you're on point now. I mean, you got a little hiccup a little while ago, but I love this topic about whatchamacallit, looking at yourself, being introspective, right? Not blaming things. I'm with that, man. Taking accountability. Because you're right, like you said in your monologue, which was good. You don't really. It is uncomfortable to look at ourselves. This is probably why we want to point the finger at somebody else or project, you know. But this is where the real work can be done that can benefit you, is if you take an honest look at what you're doing. Slow down, you know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
E.T. the hip hop preacher said something that was so profound for me, and I heard it years ago, so many years ago. I heard it when I was homeless, and it helped get me off my ass. He said, if somebody, like, you have to think about your life, right? If somebody gave you a money back guaranteed in 30 days, if you didn't get whatever you're gonna get, people run over to the person that says, hey, here's my receipt. This isn't what it said it was. Why da. He says, you want a money back guarantee, but you won't look at yourself to invest in yourself and give yourself that money back guarantee. You'll go to someone else and complain. This isn't what it was. This is what, like, he's like, why don't you owe you something? It's your life. Why aren't you giving yourself 100%? Why are you making sure that when you invest in yourself, you never have to return anything? This is your one life. This is not a dress rehearsal, people. What you have contributed to. You can, somebody else did this to me. Like, unless you know someone who someone physically who came to your life and said, I'm gonna steal this from your soul, and you felt it. You can see it in their hand. You can ID that motherfucker. I'm gonna take money out of your pockets and you didn't do nothing. I'm gonna go right in your fridge. I'm gonna take out chicken, look you right in your face, and walk out the door. If you cannot identify that person, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. What have you contributed to? Because quite frankly, the life you have is the one that you qualify for.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I agree, man. Some people is just so hopeless. You know what I mean? Some people is just hopeless, and those type of people, man, I refuse to deal with, because people like that can hold you emotionally hostage, right? You know what I mean? Like, I was on another panel and got kicked off because I told a guy to unalive himself, right? And I was half-assed being serious, but you know, it gets to the point sometimes to where a person is just so hopeless. It's just like, well, okay, well, you know, bye. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not willing to accept any help and you just like at the lowest of the low, then don't sit here and hold everybody else emotionally hostage because of your issues. Like, we all got the same cards pretty much, and it's all up to ourselves in order to make our lives better. But if you just Danny Downer over there in the corner, going on panels, just crying about how you can't get right, then you just a waste. You know what I mean? And I'm empathetic and sympathetic to those type of people, just to a certain extent, man. It's always something better. You know what I mean? You can't just sulk.
Hey, Vinko. Hey, Brick. Welcome to the panel.
Yeah, appreciate that, brother man. Yeah, definitely. There's a point where, self inventory, when it comes to, okay, well, I've been through this, I've been through that. You take that and then maybe you write it down or you just keep it in your head or whatever. You say, okay, now I've got these things that are rough. Now what can I do about it? And just, going to somebody and talking about them, that's not actually doing something. I mean, it may be helpful in a moment. But typically if you go to somebody, they're going to say, well, okay, these are the things. They're going to repeat them back to you. These are the things that you say are problems for you. And then now what can you do? And if you say, well, I can't do anything. I mean, that's just, it makes the situation impossible for yourself, So yeah, right on point, dude.
Yeah, at this point, I'm trying to keep my circle rather small, and the only person that does that, what you just said, Brick, is my 6-year-old son, and I'll give him carte blanche to do that because he's 6, But but a lot of it is annoying, like due diligence is saying to see it. But with that said, I'm trying to get better with this. I am getting better with this because there's been times where I think I'm really doing myself a service, and I'll just go on, not necessarily talking about a person, but like a type of person, like over and over again, and like, I don't like these type of people do this and that, when in fact, I mean, my time could be served better to be in this moment, being introspective. It always comes back to that, and like taking accountability of like what, like what Resla was saying about everything. I'm paraphrasing now, everything we've done led us to this point right now in our life.
Well, even,
the good and the bad and in between.
Yeah, because even like if you look at it, right? So if there is no solution, right? If there's literally no solution to an issue, well, that in of itself is a solution that you have reached, right? So you say, okay, I have this problem that's never going to be solved. Okay, it's never going to be solved. Now let me move on from that, and just to recognize that and then move on and not consider it again, maybe until later, until you see a solution. But to just sit there and hold on to it forever and ever, it's not good.
Well, in my mind, it just means when you ran into the wall, it just means that you need to go to someone else to get some knowledge. It just means that you're personally at a limit, and this is why it's very important. I agree with NPC in saying having a circle, because when you fall short, hopefully you have someone in your circle who is more knowledgeable in the areas that you are weaker in, and that's a person that you can learn from. That's why it's great to have a support system. Anyone that believes that they're going to be able to shape the world all on their own is fooling themselves. They're delusional. Which is why the first question I ask, and I'll ask everybody in the panel, and welcome Kramos to the panel. I'll repeat the first question I gave was, if you had to name one thing that you have been avoiding taking responsibility for in your life, what would it be?
Come again, please.
Can you name one thing that you've been avoiding taking responsibility for in your life? What is that thing?
To be in my personal case, to be how do you say, constante, to be constant,
consistent.
Sorry, because I can have 20 ideas. I can start 20 ideas, but at the end, sometimes I don't finish any idea. So, and that for me is in my projects, and I think it's a endless work for me, because in my decisions I have so many ideas. So sometimes I don't decide the important and the best decision, because I I engage myself in this endless thinking. So sometimes I don't decide, and sometimes I decide uh, in synchronicity with my mood, with my emotional state, and I've been irresponsible in some decisions by being so emotional and not to take the time and think and make the right evaluation to decide or to begin a project. Hey, let's do this. I begin. I want to do this, and I begin. And I start many things, but I don't finish. So consistency is something I think I'm avoiding, because I'm 42 years old, and I haven't taken the time to engage myself in a compromise with myself to be consistent. To be consistent. So I'm dispersed, and I don't like it, because a friend of mine, I tell, hey, I have this idea. Hey, Kramos, you have 1,000 ideas and you don't finish any idea. So tell me something concrete, objective, and then I can believe you. So I don't. My friend doesn't believe me, because I can tell him the ideas, but I don't present an
Right. Yeah. So he wants to see something that you've actually done, as
Yeah,
opposed to, yeah, I have an
yeah.
idea,
But
and then he will
he's a good
believe you.
friend of
Yeah.
mine, because
Yeah.
he called my attention. Hey, bro, stop that! I cannot go with you if you're with all your ideas and you don't finish nothing. So stop that. And for me, that's a friend. The friend
That's an
who,
accountability partner.
yeah, the one who tells you the things that
Here.
sometimes you don't see, and the things that sometimes you don't want to hear. So that exchange of information and trust, that is friendship for me.
Indeed.
Anyone else on the panel?
Well, you asked a similar question before, but I'll give you the same answer. I
Sure.
think the thing that I regret not taking responsibility for is my life whenever I did. You know, I spoke to you about this before, being that I just felt like I played in the streets for too long before I really got serious about life in general. So, yeah, I'm dealing with that. You know, currently, I mean, I'm doing a lot better, but and like what Cramo said, too, focus. You know, focus and accountability. That's two big things I'm dealing with. But yeah, mainly just waiting so far into life to take it serious as I should.
Yeah, I mean, I got something too. And I have no problem with mentioning this. It's not an excuse for it or anything either. Yeah, I have this problem where I cuss people out. uh, and you know what? It's something that I've done from an early age. I mean, again, not trying to make excuses. It's words that I've heard from an early age. I've used these words throughout my entire life. Have I changed it? I have. I'm better than I used to be. I'm gonna tell you right now, I used to be bad. But I still do it. And it's those moments where I become defensive, and I become defensive for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I feel like I'm being aggressed upon. That's on me. That's on me 100%, right? And the result is me cussing people out. And it's not a good look. It's not. And at least I can admit it. But, again, it's not an excuse. But it is something that as I see it over and over again, I look at it and I go, there's some things that I could probably do to be better. right? Maybe not feeling so much like this or like that. That's tough. It's tough. And I don't mind hearing it, from people who really do care about me, right? And if I know that the person cares about me and they say these things to me, I know why they're saying it. If I hear it from someone who I feel doesn't care about me, I'm really just rejecting it on its face. But that's me. Again, it's still just me.
So the question is, what are we avoiding? That what the question was, Resla?
What is something that you know personally that you're avoiding taking responsibility for?
See, that's a good question because, like, I mean, if you take that question to heart, you can really probably improve our life, like right now. But to keep it 100, I would assume that most people listening, they probably wouldn't say, maybe, well, not most, not all, wouldn't
admit it openly.
Fucked up. I'm back now. My shit fucked up for a second. Excuse me. Yeah, it might be hard to say because that's a personal thing and it can be embarrassing and whatnot, But if you really take it to heart, that's a good tool. I mean, I'll put it out there. You said it, Chrono. Like Kramos, like consistency for sure, but specifically to be consistency is in terms of my health, man. Because I'm a man of extremes, right? To keep it 100, and when I get on my my program, I go ham, I go crazy, with working out and with the lifestyle, the diet lifestyle, and mindfulness, meditating, and all that stuff. But when I'm not, I don't. So being consistent with my health in order to level up, that's something definitely I've been avoiding. And now the next question could be like, how are you avoiding it? Is it doing streams? Is it watching TV? Is it overworking? These are all really good questions, bro, for improvement.
The health one is a very good one.
Yeah.
I can identify with that statement because, for example, my teeth are fucked up. And 2 months ago, I went with my mother to Tacna in Peru because it's very cheap and it's very good dental clinics. And they pull out 5 tooth that were broken. And when I was in the chair and I cry, bro, I get angry with myself, and I was laughing after that, but it was like a catharsis because I was angry at myself because how did I avoided. I didn't take care of myself so many years.
Yeah.
Because when I was little, I went to the dentist and I was like a trauma, but that idea of trauma was the tool to avoid going and take care of my teeth. And I think avoid things. There are many tools to avoid responsibility or to accept something that you have in your personality or as a human being that you will never change. So you need to accept it, and you can change the things you can change. But some things I know in myself, there's some things that I will never change because it's part of me. But I can accept it and be responsible, not to be irresponsible to other people with that personality that I can be harmful.
You should
give example with your teeth is a big deal. It's a big deal. Sorry, excuse me. Go ahead.
You should give yourself more credit. It's not that you have things that will never change. You just don't have strong enough reasons to want to change them. That's all.
Bro,
I didn't know if everyone had gone or are we?
We're still going.
We're still going.
Before you get going, I just want to welcome Lindsay to the panel.
Hey, what's up, Lindsay?
Welcome to the panel,
Can you hear
Lindsay.
me? Can you
What
hear
were you
my
gonna say?
voice?
You're a little low.
Okay,
Hello.
try to fix it. And thank you.
No, not a
Hmm.
problem. What were your thoughts?
No, I was.
To finish my idea, you're talking with a Chilean who spent 10 years in Alcoholic Anonymous. So for me, avoid responsibility thanks to alcohol was a thing that took me in dark places. And when I went to AA, I understood that there's some things that I cannot change, and it's not bad things, but when triggers me this violent Kramos
That makes me sad
drunk.
when you say that too, Kramos. Not to cut you off, but that
I
really
understand.
that really pulls at my heartstrings when I hear people say, people that are capable people, because I don't think anything is mentally wrong with you just by looking at you, but I don't know you, Kramos. But for you to say that there's some things that you just know you won't be able to change about yourself and without having any type of mental inadequacies, you really believe that about yourself? Or like Resla said, you just don't have the right motivation or support or
The thing about motivation is that there's not right or wrong motivations. There's just how much motivation is there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a difference in motivation, capability, and will. To have the will
Yeah,
is.
addictions don't stop a person from being cognizant. Addiction robs you of will.
Yes. So, for example, now before I was in a state of suffering, and I was so irresponsible, and I spit my suffering to anybody who crossed my way. Now I am responsible, and I take my time to suffer with responsibility. And suffering for me, it's a right. Just like being happy, it's a right, but you need to be responsible because I harm many people that some of them forgive me, some of them no, but I did the exercise. Hey, I did this to you and I'm sorry because I was irresponsible. So that the intensity of my suffering, I will never change it, but I can be responsible.
It's a step in the right direction. And the thing that I'll say for what you're saying, because I understand, I do know people who are addicts of different types. You can't change what happened in the past, which is why. But what do you learn, Ukraine, also, especially if you're remaining sober and everything, even though when you understand the urges that you have, when you choose not to engage in that, you're still taking a step in the right direction. And that's not to say like you won't you won't have a time or that you may falter. But if because of the management system that you've been under, you know you can always begin again. There are so many people that don't even take the first step and they keep repeating and they keep falling and they never at some point they quit. When you're being given a management system, you're being snuck little doses of being able to give yourself that kick, that motivation. But most of all, not even motivation, because that's the thing we kind of talk about, but it's really not motivation that gets you started in your direction. It's awareness. You're aware that by doing that particular thing, it will take you down a bad road, and that's what keeps you on the straight road. Most
It's
people
like
don't have awareness.
it's like when something about other people annoying you, I can react like shut up, or I can, hey, be aware that it would always be annoying for me, but I can have the will to be responsible and not to snap, you know.
I love it. I love
I
it.
got a question about that real quick. It's because that I'm not an alcoholic, but it's pervasive in my family. So it kind of relates to what I'm dealing with right now. When I particular hear an alcoholic, I hear me. I am biased because I'm bitter. So I will admit that first of all. Wouldn't it Okay, well, how am I going to phrase this to not be offensive? When the person fighting addiction or alcoholism starts seeing you and talking about others and how they affect others as part of a family system and not just an individual, wouldn't that be motivation enough? You're self-motivated, but also think about your kids, your ex-wife, whoever was in your life who's not now, because you burned bridges or whatever because of your addiction. All I hear still is me, I.
Well,
There
that's
is
why I'm
go
trying
ahead.
to make the difference with that, with the awareness and the motivation. So the thing about motivation is that when it comes to motivation, it's all external. It's all external factors that keep you going. When you are aware, that's internal.
You need
What you
both
need to build is,
internal and
what you need to do is build a system that's internal. You cannot be you cannot be held to external expectations, because once you have something that's external and it's gone, your motivation wanes. Motivation is temporary. It's always been temporary. Self
I thought
awareness stays with
motivation
you.
was internally controlled.
No, it's always external factors. For instance,
Shouldn't it be?
Yeah,
let me give you
that
an example. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
of course.
You are motivated to go to the gym. You haven't done shit yet, though. Even going to the gym, you may even start cursing yourself. I don't want to go to the gym. Oh, but I'm going there anyway. It's only when you are aware, because the thing about motivation is always positive. Awareness sets you up for all the things that you're going to be unpleasant about. Awareness is setting yourself up for reality. See, motivation will say, I'm going to go there. I'm going to be in the gym. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to have my sexy body. And awareness says, yeah, I'm going to get that body, but I also know it's going to suck. I also know I'm going to go through days of being pain. I'm going to be sore. And yet I know it's important. So I'm going to do it regardless.
Mhm.
If you start going in strictly with motivation and then you go through your pains, your brain's saying, I don't want to do this no more. And guess what? The next time you got to get up for the gym, you ain't going.
All you can think about is milkshakes, right? And fries.
I'm sorry, Finkel, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. um, now I have several settings. I do go to 12-step meetings, AA meetings. I do go to group therapy for PTSD. I do have discussions in church groups, and I'm on YouTube discussing. So that I me versus you, it it varies, and sometimes I forget where I'm at. When I'm in an AA meeting, I want the idea is for me to share my experience, strength, and hope. So I can't say you got to do this, you got to do this. I have to try to say I've got to do this or I did this. But in other groups, if I'm giving advice, be it unsolicited or not, if I'm trying to tell someone how to do something, then I go to the yous. I get the I me's being an egotistical thing, but it's really circumstantial or situational. But to answer the first question, for me, I thought you were asking us rhetorically, so we would think about it. You want an answer. I do have a sponsor and a counselor for that, but my answer is I procrastinate.
But you can always do something about it because you're aware.
Well, then I can't share my opinion. It'll upset him.
No, if I get upset at somebody's opinion, that's on me.
You having a sponsor means you're a bitch, is my opinion.
Oh, okay. Everyone has my opinion. It sounds like it's not working for you.
Oh, what does it sound like? Tell me what it sounds like.
It sounds like it's not working for you, and I'm sorry for you.
Fine, guy. It's working for me fine. Leave me alone by myself. I'll be just fine. I know how you people like to watch as people struggle.
No,
Who's
no,
you,
actually, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Nick, go ahead. You ain't got shit to say to me.
I'll speak to the subject though. Like I feel like we splitting hairs between awareness and motivation, right? Because whenever I self motivate, I'm at my best. Whenever I'm disciplined up, whenever I don't need external motivation. But like you said, Resla, it's kind of to me, is one and the same. Like I feel like my motivations come from within. how I set my goals and stuff, but those might be, motivated by external factors. You know what I mean? So they kind of bounce back and forth off of each other. But
I completely agree. It's like the body is a machine, and so is the way that. Oh, okay.
No, go ahead. Spit whatever bullshit you spit, and we all else do.
So the reason why I'm mentioning it is because a lot of people are quote motivated by their want to do. Most people are controlled by their wants. They don't control their wants control them.
I can agree to that. That's an aspect of addiction.
You need to come to a point in your life where you control your wants, not your wants controlling you. And that comes with awareness.
All I'm hearing is these rich people are so deluded, they think they're doing better than me. That's all I'm hearing.
This guy's really projecting.
That's your ego, CJ.
Trying to have a conversation, and you get
grasp
offended.
to whatever straw you got to grasp to. I would too.
What works for me, or when I fell, it doesn't work for me.
What did your sponsor tell you? Yeah, go ahead.
What works for me when I'm not being interrupted. Well, that's one thing I like about 12-step groups. If you're sharing, everyone else shuts up for 2 to 3 minutes until you're done sharing, and then you move on, and you don't keep coming back and interrupting other people.
Not if they have main character syndrome like that guy.
I am the main character. The main character. Not just a main character. I am the.
And I get distracted and I forget what I was talking about because of the interruptions.
Then we lose the whole conversation. So
Yeah,
exactly. I understand.
What works for me is when I come to the realization that something is not working, I also have to apply.
I came to that realization.
Something has to change. Wow, you're doing better than Brooke tonight. Good for you.
I'm doing way better than you.
I'll shut up and listen now.
CJ, can I ask you a question?
Yeah. What are you talking about? Monetarily? Is that what you devils are talking about?
There's no polite way to say it.
CJ, can I ask you, how many letters has your name? How many letters have your name?
My last name's Jackson. You can figure it out. I have no idea.
Okay.
6 letters.
I don't give a fuck.
Okay.
I think. Or
why would I give a fuck? What is the reasoning?
It's not for you and about you. There are other people.
I get that. Yeah, it's not about me. Oh, okay.
It was just 4 and Jack and then Ton is 3.
To answer your question, why would you give a fuck?
For permission.
Like the reason why you want to give a fuck is so you can actually improve. If you don't give a fuck, then you're never going to improve or grow.
I would love to hear what he was going to say. That's all.
Yeah, if you haven't.
I'm not sure what's worse, screaming over people or passive aggressive bullshit. I'm not quite sure.
If you haven't,
stop. CJ, what is it that you feel like is so important that you need to say right now?
I don't have anything to say except you're all wrong.
Cool. So if you got nothing else to say, but we're all wrong, then you have nothing else to contribute. Then just listen.
I'm the main character.
Or if you're not going to, if you're not going to,
I'm the main character, bitch.
Just don't be up there.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
You're welcome. You personally are welcome.
It might be time to go take a nap, CJ. Time to go take a nap.
You're welcome.
And yeah,
nap it off, CJ.
Hey, man, the main character died.
What are we doing here?
There's always one. What I was saying, and I hope CJ can hear me, is when you come to the realization that something's got to change, now you have a choice: either change it or don't. It sounds like somebody doesn't want to change, and that's okay. Whatever works for you. Oh wait, you're not here. How's that working for you?
He's the main character.
I think it's very
main character syndrome.
Hey, there are movies where the main character dies at the beginning, just so you know.
For me, it's a simple idea. When there's light, darkness always try to use any way to extinguish that light. So I think that guy has a very cool beard, and I don't know how many letters has his name, but
I like the guy. I've typed to him many times. He's going through some kind of resistance or something. Sorry.
Resistance. That's a good word.
So in that case, is that a good thing? You like that?
What?
No, Lindsay. You said you like that. I would assume that's a good thing, because I mean that's a good characteristic to have, to be always resisting everything.
Why would I say that? How's that?
I mean, you said you like it, so that
No, I said I liked him. That I've spoken to him.
Okay.
Typed to him in text many times. As a person, he's pretty cool. He's funny. You can get along with him.
He's been on other panels at other times, and he can be very likable. But he's going through something tonight, and I've seen in the past. He's I can't really tell what it is.
You said it better.
Okay.
I have no problems with CJ. And it is possible that he's going through some stuff, but it is certainly not beneficial to not be interested in achieving a higher goal.
I would suggest that we all see that. Of course, it's easier to take someone else's inventory, but
that was for me too. That was for me too.
Well, and that wasn't thrown at you, but it's easy for right now for him to sit where he is and say it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, which actually speaks to Resla's monologue at the beginning.
It's Alexandria's fault for sure.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, so I remember the last stream Resla did. It was the topic, and now he's doing the part 2. I remember leaving it off personally at the long term versus the short term, right? Good friends don't let friends drive drunk, right? That's an old saying, right? So he's going to take the keys from you, even if it means by physical force, right? So, that brutal honesty when it's necessary is what is needed. And it's tough because you want to be a good friend. Sometimes you don't want to say something, but sometimes you have to. And in this case, just saying, oh, it's all, just throw your hands up in the air and, to hell in a handbasket with the whole world. It's just not, it's not beneficial. Love you, CJ.
I find that, and I forget this sometimes, but I find that I've never had a bad day. I've had many bad moments that I would milk all day or sometimes milk all week. But what was Resla saying? You're not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible for your next thought. Actually, he didn't say it that way. That's why I translated when he said. I can't remember what he said, but I came to that.
No, that was good.
You cannot control how you feel. You can only control what you do next after the feeling.
I think control is a very powerful tool, and at the same time it can be a very powerful problem if you don't have the awareness about what you can control and how to control that, or the things that you cannot control. Because if I'm in traffic in the car and somebody cut me off, I can control not to fucking yell, but I will feel anger. I will feel, motherfucker, cut me off. But I can have control of my body not to, or be quiet or with my family, with the girlfriend.
Is that what we should have done? Be quiet. Keep letting him talk. Keep letting him talk. Keep letting him,
Well, no. That's why I just stopped
sentences.
everybody. Yeah, that's why I just stopped everybody and said, "What do you have to contribute? Let him get it out."
It's valid. It's valid that he has that perception, and he's if that friend is in his process, it's an individual process, and nobody can tell him what to do. But of course, you can put it on or off if he's not contribute. If he doesn't make any contribution, it's not going to be helpful for himself. At the same time, I think when you have control of that, in this case, Resla his channel, his episode, his show, he can moderate and have control. But if I go and, hey CJ, shut the fuck up, I'm gonna try to have control. No, I can react
We
to,
tried the nice way, all of us. People asked
yeah,
him respectfully to stop interrupting.
in a good way or in a bad way. We don't have control. The host has the control because the host decides. So when control about something in a collective group depends on other person, you can react. Hey, do this, kick him out, or leave him here. The necessity and the impulse and the anxiety of control when it's not it doesn't depend on you is very uh, could be a very huge problem if you cannot control yourself
You guys
first.
did a very good job of that because despite the fact that all that stuff was taken care of, a lot of you composed yourself. And again, we're not we cannot control what other people do. I couldn't control the fact that he wanted to keep going off, but I can do the next step and control whether he should be doing it going forward.
There you go. I do want to keep
yell and tell him, be quiet. No, I can see that you weren't going to because I gave you an opportunity to get it off your chest, and you had
Do I
nothing.
owe him an apology?
You
That's up
only
to you.
owe someone an apology if you feel sorry for what you've said or done. I don't want to keep talking all night about someone who's not here to respond. But if he's listening, I would like him to read page 417 of this text and do the waltz, read steps 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 until something works for him. But that's just a suggestion. It's a suggestion only. Other than that, unless TJ comes back up, I don't want to talk about him anymore.
Let me tell you something that happened to me in the past. Sorry. My sponsor was a woman of 85 years old. And when I was in the third year of my steps, I was in a very far place in Santiago City in Chile, and I called her 5 a.m. in the morning. Hey, I'm having problems. And she told me, grab a cab, come here. And I went to her apartment, and she gave me a chocolate. And I was like, I wanna shut the fuck up. She told me, shut up. No, but I was shut up, and take the chocolate. You want a coffee? You want something to eat? No. But I was in this. Shut the fuck up! I don't care where you were. I don't care what happened to you. You are here now, and you are not drinking. So if you want to sleep or if you want to eat, but don't tell me you're, oh, poor you're suffering. That's what you want? You want me to pat you in the back? No, I'm here to sponsor. I'm supporting you to be here and not there. It's simple as that. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a therapist. I'm just welcome you to my department to be here and not there. Period. And for me, was like, oh fuck my fucking mouth. Oh, the self victim. When you're a victim, you want to tell everybody, oh, I'm a victim. Be sorry for me. So she destroyed that for me, and I will never forget. It was the best thing that happened in my process, thanks to her. Control of what? Of me being quiet.
She distracted you from your thoughts that you couldn't get out of.
All right. I want to welcome Alexandria, of course, to the panel, and of course, Dom to the panel. Alexandria, you've been here for a little bit. What are your thoughts on everything so far?
Hello. As I was listening in the beginning, I started thinking about my issues, which I won't get into a lot of personal stuff because it's YouTube. But I think one of my biggest things that I'm proud of is that can, I can admit where I fall short and where I have problems and what I need to change. My problem is just actually being better and making the changes. Which it's not really an excuse. I mean, I do have an explanation for it. Like, I have a lot of mental health issues. So, for instance, just like wanting to do more, wanting to okay, I'm going to clean this and this and this and this today, and then I'll only get two things done because it's like I can't get myself motivated because I have major depressive disorder, or wanting to go to the gym. And I mean, I know part of it is like I need to get back into my ECT treatments, electroconvulsive therapy, for those who don't know, but because I've had 15 of them. But when you are getting ECT, you have to have like someone drive you and take care of you, basically. So not having a person to do that, I can't go get my treatments. But like when I got my treatments, I would go to the gym 4 times a week and I would be very productive around the house. So now it's like I don't do the things that I used to do, and it's like trying to force myself to go to the gym or eat right, and it's like I'll eat right for 2 or 3 days and then like I'll have a cookie and a pop, and it's like I didn't need to have that, but it's like it's hard to find the motivation to do what I need to do, and um the willpower to not do the things I don't need to do, like eat a piece of pie. Um but then I try to tell myself like, okay, there are other people with mental health issues who do push through it, so I need to just push through and be better. So I'll get to a point where like I can do more, but I still don't do all the things that like I know I could do to be better. Why are you making them faces? I'm being so vulnerable.
No, sorry, I saw something in the chat that was weird. I was listening to you
But
though.
but yeah, that's one thing I guess I can share that's hard for me. It's just yeah, like acknowledging that I need to get more done. I need to do more, and this is where I fall short. But it's just the finding the motivation to push myself to do what I need to do. I'm not good with that. And I do think a lot of it falls with my mental health issues, but it's still I feel like I could still push myself to do more. It's very difficult.
All right. But but the thing about it is that you're very much aware. Like you're not disillusioned. You're aware that you got a fight on your hands, but you understand that there's gonna be a benefit to it.
Very.
That's important. Dom, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been hearing you guys. I guess the question would be actually, and I usually ask questions for myself, is being better about being or doing? I get the action part, but for most people, they're not truly fully developed yet, emotionally, mentally. The triggers usually don't come because somebody says something negative. It's because somebody says compliment a while back ago. So they get triggered by that. They store that. This is where people play with the ideal of positive opposed to negative. The negative energy actually fuels it. And if a person doesn't understand that, then how does a car work then? Again, it's a great topic. And if a person goes inwards, making it about others is wasted energy for a person's personal growth. It could be entertaining, but it's still wasted energy.
Yeah, I would suggest that the action part does take repetition. Like earlier, I identified that I procrastinate. One of the biggest things I procrastinate is opening the mail, and I realized something has to change when I almost missed a jury summons. But that fix was only temporary because I'm back to procrastinating open the mail.
So since we understand that part of a good thing about part of the thing of really about getting better, this is why I agree with Dom, is the action steps. People think a lot of things all day, but unless you actually take action, nothing gets done. So I guess the question I want to ask to the panel is, why do you think people struggle so much when it comes to self-awareness? Is it like just pride? Is it fear? Is it something else?
Can I say something before we move on right quick? I want to respond to the issue before. Whenever we're talking about, like, I find it interesting to think about the mechanisms that we use to keep ourselves, motivated or what have you, the things that give us our drives to make us want to do positive. Like, for instance, the guys on the panel that said they've been through like AA, and I know part of that is to, they give them these, classes to train them to say that they know that they can't take care of the situation themselves, and they need to give it to a higher power, right? And then there's other motivating mechanisms too to get through addiction, also, and just all different kind of things in your life, right? And I used to pity people like that, but also I come to realize people from a religious aspect used to pity me too for not believing in what they believed in. But what I ultimately came to realize is that we're both trying to achieve the same goal, right? And that's have peace, one of them anyway, or joy. So I don't no longer like look down my nose and be like, look at people as being less than because they use what I believe is an imaginary friend in order to get through harsh issues, as long as they achieve that objective. So I just say all that to say that I found it interesting in the different mechanisms that people choose to use in order to get themselves out of whatever funk.
Go ahead.
Sorry, but I can relate that idea that he just said with the control again, because I think one way to be my own enemy about control is when I have expectation. If I do something for a friend and that friend replies with a gesture that doesn't fit my expectation, I feel disappointed. And that's a really fucked up exercise because I was hoping that he will have the same gesture, or something equal gesture. So I'm losing the thankfulness of receiving his gesture because my expectation prevents me and infect my idea of be thankful, because my expectation is trying to control what gesture I will receive. I need to receive. I want to be like this, but if I don't receive the gesture in the form of my expectation, I feel disappointed, and that's very ignorant. And I was like that in some relationships that I had. So when I learned that is because of the book of Viktor Frank. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but that book taught me how to be over the expectation and be aware of the gesture or the gift or the words that I'm receiving, even though are not the expected words that I wanted to hear, but to be aware of that I'm receiving something. At least it's better than not to receive anything. I don't know if I explain myself.
I think what you're saying is, a lot of times we will do good things and we expect good things in return, but we have to learn, if you do a good deed, don't do it because you expect someone to do it back. Like, you do good things to people, and if they're nice back, great. But if they're not, it doesn't change who you are, because I'm going to be kind regardless. If you want to be rude to me after I'm kind, that's you, but it's not going to change who I am. You're not going to make me be hateful because you're hateful. I'm going to be kind regardless.
What you say,
Yeah.
misery loves company. You know what I mean? It's I kind of alluded to it earlier with the whole kind of like it's very attractive or seductive mentality, but it's cancerous because it ends up kind of like feeding into all the destructive paths. In terms of like we're saying, Reza, like the reason why I think a lot of us go down this path, it is got to do with the ego, and I think it was Graham Hancock. He talks about it on like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. Now, I don't recommend this for everybody. Like, you can still do this. You can get to the same kind of like realization through meditation, stuff like that as well. But he talks about when he his ayahuasca experiences, or DMT or whatever, in South America. He talked about like the ego death. And like some people, they need to go to that point to experience that, where it's like your ego crumbles, and then you kind of realize, oh shit, like you become more humble, you become more empathetic to other people and what they're going through, and that's where you kind of like what Grandmos was saying, like he had an expectation of what he should get rather than just doing the deed for what he's doing. Same thing with like Alex as well. it's like you have that kind of thing of, oh, I need this cookie now, rather than saying, well, I've gone 2 days without the cookie. Why not do the third? You know what I mean? And it's like we often kind of like overlook the achievements that we do at the end of each day and say, oh, I done nothing today, rather than saying, well, no, I done 2 things today. Let's see if I can do 3 things tomorrow.
So I'll go back to the question, because the thing I mentioned for a lot of people, and like I said, it's not just about like substance or even like the other things. Like we have lots of addictions. One of the things I mentioned is an addiction that's very strong. I've seen a lot of people is the blaming and even deflection. But like I said, the biggest thing for all people to first get is the first self-awareness. And a lot of people are not self-aware. So what keeps people struggling from finding self-awareness? We've seen pride on one side today.
Well, it depends.
But there's a lot of other things. There are a lot of things as well. People do it out of fear, or there's even other things.
Pride.
James?
Yeah, I was going to say that right there, the fear, right? So particular fear, and you've actually done a show on that, fear of failure, right? Because we fear that what we're going to do is not going to be good enough. Therefore, it will not be better, right?
People also don't move because they're fear success. What happens if I get there and I'm not ready for it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and they're also fearful of making mistakes,
right,
as
failure.
well, and then not knowing how to deal with that, and correct that because they don't have the experience yet. But then the thing is, if you don't get the experience, you won't know how to correct those mistakes.
Well, even if you do really well, and then that person that you become, are you fearing that person that you will become? Right? Is that the better person? Like, is that the problem? Is that person that you don't know that you're going to be in the future? Is that going to be the guy that you are stopping? You know, these things, right? And it really does fall down to this for me. You mentioned actually in the beginning the challenge, right? If the challenge isn't an honest challenge, right? So, like in school, I was taught to measure my goals. The goals, if I set them really low, then they're not really goals. They're just little achievements. But if they're too big, too broad, too burdensome, they're not really goals. And so measuring those goals will make the difference on the ability to actually do what you need to do to be better.
Yeah, your goals should be milestones, by things that you can actually do. One of the things that was said by a speaker, Jim Ron, is like, if you can believe that you can do it, you can do it. It's easy to you have a choice of two choices: easy to do and easy not to do.
Yeah.
So, what does it mean to say the things that are to do? Is what you tell yourself. It's if I can do it, it's easy. Now, doesn't mean it's not gonna be challenges. Doesn't mean it's not gonna come with its own patches. But if you are telling yourself that you can do it, it's easy. Because it's also easy to tell yourself what you can't do. So if you're always telling yourself that what you do is measured and you can actually achieve it, doesn't mean that you're gonna get it fast. Doesn't mean it won't come without bumps in the road. But if you're telling yourself you can get it done, it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Because you will make all the action steps to see it done.
I think you're saying like what I was gonna say. Like as soon as I heard fear, like fear of that person once you get there, I don't think it's that for most people. I think it's not believing it's possible because you can't see it. You can't see it ahead of time. So like I'll use me hating myself in my body as an example. Like I've never seen myself with abs. So it's like I think like, okay, well, why work at it? Because I mean I have a flat stomach. Why do I need to have abs? Like I don't know that I could get there. But if I were to be able to see the future and someone show me, if you eat this, this, and this every day, and you go to the gym this many times and you do this, look, you will have abs. Like if I knew it was going to happen, I'd be like, oh, this is what I have to do to get there. Okay, since I know that will work, I'll do it. But since I don't know exactly what it's going to take, it's like, I don't know. It's like I stop myself because it's like, well, I don't see results. Like, I don't see results quickly. So maybe this isn't going to work. Like, why am I even trying?
Can we also mention something else that's very important when it comes to this concept, this mindset when it comes to failure? I'll use your example, Alex. Let's say you were told that food that you need to eat. Keep eating that, and eventually you will have abs. You will have abs of steel. Now, let's just say you're eating that food for like 40 days, right? 40 days, you have to eat this meal every day. It'll work towards your abs. You will be shredded. You've been eating it for 39 days. You're supposed to make it to day 40, and you don't make day 40. You got 39 days under you, but you don't make day 40. You know, people will turn around and say, I'm a failure. I failed because I did not make day 40. Which is ridiculous.
Yet, just to echo of that, Reza, if you got 39 questions out of 40 questions on a test, that would be one of the best grades you could possibly get. Mentality.
But there are people who would judge themselves and say that they failed.
Mm-hmm.
Over
the problem is the result.
I'm that person. I'm definitely that person.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to what Brick was saying about having the small measurable goals. For a marathon runner who's never run 26 miles before, just make it to the next telephone pole. Just make it to the next stop sign. Just make it to the next block. And as you achieve each one, go on. For the alcoholics, if they've gone a month without drinking and they slip, just come back in. Take it one day at a time. In the military, for having a bad day, they say just get from chow to chow because there's 3 meals a day. Just get through to the next meal and then you can reset. Whatever approach you take, it is the small goals that build up. But I got to say, you can't just eat right or just exercise right. You got to do both. And I've come to the conclusion, exercise, diet, you're going to die anyway, so I'm fat.
well, you're going to die anything. You're going to die anyway, right? But you can also choose, in some sense, how you wish to die. There's also dying well, and there's also dying happy, and there's also dying miserably. But
with all due respect, my body is gonna die, not me.
The whole concept of saying that you can go through all that stuff and it's not a failure, I always think of how people look at Edison. When the reporter hits Edison and turns around and say, how do you feel about all those failures that you have with the light bulb? He's like, I didn't have failures. I just had all those different ways that it didn't work.
I learned about the results of a trap, because if you need to accomplish something and when you're trying and working to get there, if you're thinking about the result, how it's going to result, it's going to be good, it's going to be bad, when, how, if you're thinking about this all the time, you miss and you lose all the greatness of the attempt. And for me, the attempt is the victory, not the result.
We call that not counting the cost. Because if you have a goal and you think that if you think about everything you have to do in it and it's too much, you psych yourself out. Don't count the cost. Just take a step and keep going. Put your head down, grind, and one day you'll pick your head up and you'll notice that you're almost there. Yeah. Most people think of the distance. See how, like you think of, like, they think of the marathon. Oh, it's gonna be 5K. I can barely make it to the telephone pole right now. 5K just is too much. Rather than just don't count the cost, just make it to the pole.
Yeah, the struggle. The struggle is necessary. It's 100% necessary, and it will happen if you are going to the goal. If you are not going to the goal, then there will be no struggle. Yes, this is true, but that will not reach literally is the statement. If you do not struggle, you will not reach the goal.
This literally the term of you must fail your way to success.
I apologize. I'm going to interrupt the conversation to react to the chat. If I was in a cult, Carpenter's Journey, I'd be doing everything in my power to reel you back in. All I can do is tip my hat and wish you good luck. That's the difference between what I do and a cult is. Please continue. Sorry for the interruption.
No, and that's actually, I agree with you, Finkel. AA is far from a cult. That's like the absolute worst analogy or example of a. If that's a cult, bro, then America is a cult.
Hold on. January 29, 2025. Brick agreed with me.
Woohoo!
Hey, can I speak to the question? Can you restate the question of Resla again about people not having awareness?
So the question is, why do we think that people struggle with awareness? Like, is it out of fear? Is it out of pride, or is it something else? What are your thoughts on that?
For me personally, you know what I mean. From what I've seen in my life, I think it's a mix between like delusion, right? Because I like whenever you are self-aware, and this is not going against what you say, but like saying that people aren't self-aware is kind of oxymoronic, right? But I know what you mean, and I agree with you. But that's the reason why I say it's kind of delusional, because everybody know what they're doing. Do you want to accept what you're doing, or is in your best interest or not, is another, question altogether. So I think that people are like taking the easy route, want to do as less as possible to get the most. So from my experience, it's just like delusion and just people just not want to take responsibility. Like you said, fear. Like, to become self-aware means you got to take responsibility, and we know, that's few and far between out there.
Dom, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm hearing words, and if a person reflects in words, you can make that shift in thoughts. So when I hear the word control, what are you controlling? So for a lot of people, they're going to lean towards the physical. I said, but what are you really controlling? This is where when people do like AA, there's a term called recovery. What are you again covering up? It's usually an emotion. Drinking is usually anger, smoking is grieving. So when people become aware of the emotion, energy, and motion, then your mental capacity can actually work with that. But most people are caught up in the physical and ignoring things, which are thoughts. What we do when we speak is called afterthoughts. So you can literally observe your thoughts and say, why would I say that? Why would I be triggered? And then once you realize that, because control is kind of delusional, because you're not controlling the liquids in your body right now. So then what are you controlling then? Most people think they're trying to control something. What they're doing is they're hiding behind a mask. And they're using words. It'd be nice when you shift words around and you start entertaining many variations, because English is a meaningful language. So you can use the word cool to mean many different things. Once you start interacting those words, then one might resonate in that moment. But for most people, they do a thing called reacting. You can't be accountable with reaction. You can be accountable with responsibility. But for most people, they haven't developed that yet. And of course, now there's cycles. The first 7 years are the physical development years. The next 7 years is the emotional development years. That's why it's called the child years. That's why if I'll say to somebody, you're very childlike. You're caught up in your emotions. They're not fully developed. Now somebody said, yeah, but you said something angry. I said, no. Your emotions reveal itself because you got overexcited about something. And if you're going to take the sweet aspect of it, you also have to play the sour part of it. But for a lot of people, and people don't even, and a lot of people forget this part, the brain doesn't fully develop to 25. So we're already talking about the physical, emotional, and mental state. Hence why when people say things like three-dimensional, you have different states. When people talk about a diet, are we talking about this a physical diet, an emotional diet, or a mental diet? Most people are concerned about what goes in their mouth, but what comes out of you reveals you. And when you do that, then you can actually start growing. Outside of that, it was always about know thyself. Self-awareness opposed to aware of the self. Those are two different things. Self-love opposed to loving the self. Those are two different things. Once you start becoming aware of that self, then you're going to go beyond dogmas, belief systems, and you'll even go beyond knowledge. This is about discernment. This is about understanding oneself, not other people. Anybody ever tells me that they understand other people, I said, you see through their senses? No, so you're delusional. You're going to play this debating with each other. You're better off doing that alone. Challenge the self. Don't challenge others, especially when you don't live their lives. I'm just using words right now, guys. I'm being the fool right now by speaking out loud.
You're choosing good words.
Well, they're just words, but yeah, they could be
Wow.
classified as they could be
The
classified
only
as
thing
good as well.
the only thing I will push back is that whole the whole mentally developed hemisphere thing, because quite frankly, there are a lot of people who are adults who are in their 40s, their 50s, who still behave like children. There are definitely people who are still dealing with arrested development.
Okay, so play with that, Resla. When you say somebody's 40, who or what is 40? Is your mental mind 40, your emotional, or is it just your physical body that's 40?
Who
Putting
are
that
what
out there.
who is what is mature?
I get maturity is a different thing.
What age is mature when we talk about the way how people behave?
Maturity
My
is usually when
age,
emotions. This is where
my
people talk
age is
about.
mature. I'm 42 centuries. That's my play with my age. I'm 42 centuries. I'm not 42 years old. I'm 42 centuries years old. And I like the statement about challenging yourself, because what are you going to do? Are you going to expect that somebody challenge you before taking care of what you need to resolve? No, you challenge yourself. And I think that's the better part of the statement about be aware that nobody can challenge you as yourself. Nobody will make the most difficult challenge that yourself to yourself for yourself. I agree, bro. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
I
you lost me. How are you 42 centuries old?
Because I am
Because
eternal.
yeah, he's eternal and he's part of a cult. And speaking of which, we got the 499 Mama says that cult lives matter.
Here.
now I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know when the brain finishes developing, but I do know I started drinking to get drunk to cope when I was
At
16.
25.
At
It's at
16.
25.
Oh, at 25. Okay. So I have a problem. I pick up the whiskey bottle. I cope with the problem. 17, 18, 20, 25. Problem, cope. Problem, cope. So when I turned 46 and I stopped drinking, I didn't know how to cope because this was gone now. By the way, this is Coke. uh, so now I am a 46, 47-year-old, 16-year-old on my emotional maturity. How do I cope with things? So now I have to catch up. I have to do things like work 12 steps, learn acceptance, learn to turn my will over to the care of a higher power. That's will, not the situation. Etc. But I'm starting at 46 when most people learn to develop. Well, most people who didn't cope with drugs or alcohol learned to cope at 16, 17, 18. You know, when I was coping by drinking. I'm rambling, so I'm going to shut up.
Well, because of what you had
The reason
said,
why I'm bringing up the brain thing, right? Because we're confusing two things. We confuse development with maturity.
yeah, cognition versus actual maturity. Yeah, and actually, this whole conversation makes me consider a question. It's an age-old question. Can you teach a old dog new tricks? I say yes.
Yes.
Right? And what it's saying is, can old folks learn? And the answer to that, as
Yes.
I hope everyone will agree, is yes. Does the brain stop maturing all of a sudden just because you're 25, 30, 40, 90? No.
Actually, somewhat.
It does not stop learning.
There
I
are
want to
seniors,
add a caveat to
there are
that.
seniors, there are seniors, they're literally senior citizens graduating med school.
But since
There's
the issue of AA keeps coming up, here's what I want to add to that. Can you teach an old dog new tricks? But then you have groups that teach people that they can't learn new tricks. You right? And it teaches them to, like, I don't feel like if somebody told me that I can't help myself, you basically telling me to give up on myself. Like, I
Yes.
could never give up on myself and allow somebody to tell me that I'm inadequate to fix some problem unless I have been diagnosed with some type of issue. Then I would have to accept it. So, but if I haven't been diagnosed, I don't feel nothing is wrong with me. Nobody has formally told me nothing is wrong. Like, I don't have the ability to give up on myself so fast, and I think people do. When it comes to addiction, if that's what you need to use in order to get over that hurdle, I would never condemn you. But me, myself, I just feel like there's so many different other techniques, avenues, ways in order to, achieve different things.
Yeah, AA is not the only form of self-improvement. I'm also working on my PTSD. This is not AA literature. This is the body keeps the score. It's dealing with trauma, not trauma. I think the reason AA keeps coming back up is because the panel started with someone it wasn't working for, and then someone else joined, and they've had hit and miss.
We were just talking about the idea. What I said was, people have many things that they do of habit, and those habits become addictive. That's why addictions are not just simply substance or whatever abuse. Kramer was the one that shared his, and then everybody kind of got it, and then we got stuck on AA. AA is not the only form of abuse.
Agreed. And A doesn't necessarily work for all alcoholics.
Speaking of abuse, we're gonna try it. We're gonna try this one more time.
But we're talking about ability too. Let's not forget because we're talking about motivational aspects, controlling aspects to get past the issue. That's what I was saying there. But everybody's using AA, you know what I mean, to express different things. And I'm saying if we're using that for the model, what about this aspect of it?
Well, because here's the thing, I see not every addict is someone who is totally dysfunctional. There are functional addicts. We have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and so like for dementia, that's a disease that is actually described as cognitive decline, right? So for an instance like that, you say, okay, this person is actually going the opposite direction of learning, receiving cognition, right?
Oh, okay. I didn't know I had my mic unmuted. My bad.
Okay. It's all good. But the idea that now all of a sudden you get to a certain age and you hit a roadblock and you're automatically going to either hit the wall of dementia, like it's going to happen, it's just not accurate. Like just because you get to a certain age, all of a sudden you're going to hit the wall of cognition. No, it doesn't happen. I've been learning things over the past year that I never believed that I would be learning. And that's not cognitive decline, nor is it a cognitive wall.
I agree.
And we're kind of
what I was saying about the brain physically growing. There's a point, I don't know when it is, that it stops growing and brain cells die without alcohol. There's also emotional growth, and that for me that can't happen if I'm drinking to cope. And there were things I did learn while I was drinking. So it's not all about drinking. I use it because I was introduced to 12 simple steps to improve my life. And only the first one talks about drinking. The rest of them are about living life on life's terms. Hey, CJ's back. Welcome back, CJ. Let's see what CJ has to say.
I was hoping you would go on past the live life on life's terms. I really wanted to know what that meant to an AA person. For me, it means living life the way it is, but I wanted to know what you were going to say.
Okay, well, that's fair enough, but it doesn't have to be through AA. When you learn to accept that the world around you is the world around you, the only thing you can change is yourself.
Which I have.
Huh?
I was just saying, which I have.
Cool.
Okay, go on.
Well, I don't want to filibuster. Brick gets mad at me when I filibuster.
No, filibuster, by all means. Just say something coherent, for the love of God.
I could never be mad with you, Finkel.
Bullshit.
Am I the drunk one here? Is that really what's happening?
I don't know. I don't have a breathalyzer that works for YouTube. Are you drunk?
It seems that way. You say something. Fuck.
Well, actually, I wanted to mention something right about the doing, right? So the doing is really, in my opinion, the crux of the entire matter. Moving forward requires physical action, right? Now we can sit here and opine and discuss what is accurate towards the example of what is going to be better or do better. That's the words, that's the ideals, that's your view of the world, which is great. I mean, it's definitely beneficial, especially if you're receiving in what others around you are telling you. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I say take in what is good, leave out what is bad. It's pretty much that simple. But then when you take action, when you actually do something, if it's a journal, you start with the first words that you put down in it. If it's building a house, you start with the digging. You know, those things that you must do will not be accomplished without first moving. It's a motivation. It is absolutely 100% the motivation to move forward. And if you don't do that first, you'll never get there.
And I think we're touching on like a deep like philosophical kind of like argument in terms of like the being versus becoming. And like to what like Brick's kind of saying there is that it's like if you're in a constant state of being, like you will never experience the change that you need to actually improve. You know what I mean? It's like we're not actually like being, we're actually becoming. We're
Like
in
everybody
constant
sees
flux.
what you're doing, guy.
This is the like the whole kind
You
of
don't have
concept
a
around like
fucking
Heraclitus and the
opinion
river,
thought
where
in
it's like
your
you
head.
can't step in the same river twice. You're constantly like experiencing that rate of flow or that flux that's constantly changing. You know what I mean? So it's like
Exactly.
when
Ride the
you
wave.
brought up when you brought up that whole kind of concept of like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, it's that whole thing of like a person will get to a certain age and they think, oh, I am what I am. I'm just in that state of being. But even the old people can go into that, can change that mentality of instead of being, they go back to becoming, and they continue to improve and change and adapt. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, you triggered something that I
Don't
haven't
play into the
considered.
leprechaun hand, bro. I warned you.
Yeah, something that I hadn't considered in a very, very long time. So when I was very young, like 4 and 5 years old, my grandfather bought a campground. And now this campground was very small. Now, over the years, he purchased more property. After he had improved certain parts of it, he purchased more property. And then he built that piece of it. And then he improved that piece of it. And then he purchased another piece of land for that campground. And he built that piece of it, all the while maintaining the other pieces, building up this section, and it started from the very first step, not necessarily just sitting there considering, oh, I could just buy a campground. No, he actually took the steps. He wrote it down. This is my plan. Went to the bank, borrowed the money. These steps, the little steps, one by one, and eventually he turned that small campground into a massive, beautiful campground that still exists today. It's very, very quite impressive to me.
That sounds cool. It's forgive me. That sounds more like the small goals building into a big goal, and that's cool. What I was thinking about, I might have been off topic, was learning new habits at older ages. The first time I became unemployed, in fact, the only time I became unemployed was the week of my 50th birthday. And I didn't know how to do that. I always had 1 or 2 jobs my entire adult life, even during my adolescent life. Now I'm unemployed, and I freaked out. It wasn't easy getting back into the workforce. And people kept telling me, volunteer. I'm like, fuck that. I got to find a job. I don't want to work for free.
At least we see eye to eye on that, bro. Fuck that volunteering shit.
So in the 8.5 months that I was unemployed, I also learned to help out at the USO at the airport and pass out coffee and give directions. I also learned to go to soup kitchens. I didn't want to go to a fucking soup kitchen. Now I enjoy doing these things. Something changed in me. And while I was at the USO or at the soup kitchen,
aspiring to be that guy.
While I was doing these things, thank you for interrupting. I actually got out of my own head, and I made myself happier by being of service to others.
Very cool.
Oh, yeah. Tip my hat to you there, CJ. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I drank, is because you say shit like that. I mean,
Great.
I love that response because it goes like to the whole point of like you're the one that's making me drink rather than taking
Right.
It's not that you're making me. Clearly, I'm choosing it, but I choose it because the world's so retarded.
And I'm
Well,
I have
way
power.
smarter than you,
hold on.
I make other
motherfucker.
people
Always
I will
someone
never
else's
get the
problem.
credit that I deserve, and I'm aware
I
of
don't want to
that.
misunderstand you,
But you
CJ.
can't
That's
talk to me without calling me an idiot and dipping off the panel.
so
I guarantee you.
CJ. I don't want to misunderstand you.
Okay.
But when you say something, right, I'm going to consider that that's what you mean. So
Okay.
if you mean something, then
That's
say
what I
that.
always do. So
Well, because you said the words that it's the reason
just say what you
why
mean,
you
guy.
drink,
What are you saying?
because you said something, and then when people confronted you about,
What did I say? Confront me about it.
well, you said that the reason you drink is because people say stupid shit like that. Well,
Okay.
that's not what you meant, and I
What did
understand
I
that
mean
now,
then?
huh?
What did I mean then? If I don't know what I
Well,
mean,
you said that you didn't mean that. So I'm hold
whatever.
on,
We're
just
arguing
because
semantics.
we
Clearly,
don't even need to go down it. You didn't mean
What
it,
the
but
hell are we talking about?
moving forward,
Eddie bullshit.
here's a question for you, CJ. What do you do to be better?
It's been done about
He answered
3
it
or 4
already.
years ago, and I
Mhm.
am not trying to get any better than I already am until the world acknowledges it.
He's in
What
that
So
what
state of being.
he's gonna die exactly the way he is.
How about
what,
that?
I
At
don't
least
know what
I'm
that
honest.
is because I wasn't here for
Okay.
that.
At least I'm honest.
Well, I wasn't
No,
here for that, and I do apologize.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I do apologize. I did not hear it earlier because I was not here. I apologize for my absence during that conversation.
As well, you should.
I could
Is
give
there
you a
is
claim
hold on,
you made.
because is there a reason that I should? I'm doing it out of a
Because
gesture.
of
I'm
the
not doing it
amount of
because I
work
should.
that I put in trying to gain people like yours respect. And I'm aware that it's not
You don't, bro. You
personally.
don't have
I'm
to.
not
You
a
don't have to
crazy
gain my
person.
respect. I have
This is
100%
the
respect
same
for you.
fucking narrative
No,
over and
CJ,
over and over and
CJ.
over again. And you're determined to
Listen,
tell me
my
I
friend.
don't see it. I have
CJ,
had
listen, my
people
friend.
tell me
Okay.
I'm wrong way too
So
many
this is the
times.
way that I treat respect. You start
Okay.
at 100.
Don't do your
Okay.
thing, bro.
This
Say
is the
it
way
again.
that I treat. I know a lot of people don't see it this way.
Yeah.
I treat people with 100% respect until they lose it. That is
Yeah.
to me what respect means.
Sure
Now,
you
if
do.
you lose it,
I'll
then it's
believe it
very
when I
difficult, depending on what happens, to
I'll
gain
believe
it
it when I
back.
see it.
Right?
I'll believe it when I see it.
That's why I show you respect right now.
People don't do that.
But
What
I
you
don't
just said,
have
people
to.
don't do it.
I don't have to, right?
No,
Do I
people
have
don't.
to?
Nobody does. Nobody does that. Not a
But here's
single
the thing,
fucking
CJ.
person. Prove me wrong.
CJ, we're not having a conversation.
Well,
What you're doing is
I
you're
get
just
it. I'm
completely
winning.
ignoring me. So I'm just
can I
leave it
filibuster?
alone,
So
and we'll move on.
when you try to move, I don't understand the purpose or even trying to be around people.
There ain't no purpose in talking to me. There really ain't.
if they have clogged ears and clouded eyes.
Yeah, I'm right. The end. You die. The end. Bye.
Can I filibuster just for 2 minutes? And I appreciate this experience because I keep running into a stumbling block on these panels. Panelists have different philosophical views, different political views, different religious views. And we get into it where we're yelling at each other. And at the end of the day, no one convinces anything to anybody. So we're certainly not going to convince someone who's drinking and drunk. And what that person has to do is figure out for themselves if they want a change. If they don't want to change, enjoy the buzz.
I've already stated that. But here's the point where we get at. A person it's up to that person to change, right? And they even said for themselves that their major point of contention is just being civil with other people. Then why be engaging around other people? You already know what your afflictions are.
Exactly. Now everyone knows Brick and I, when we bunk heads, we're going to go at it, and we're going to get louder, and we're going to talk over each other. And when we're done,
yeehaw!
No one's convinced the other of anything. So I would suggest to Brick that when he's trying to do it with someone who's drunk, you're going to have even less success than you do with me.
Well, so, and I understand
Way to
what you're saying.
triangulate this whole thing.
Well, no. Actually,
Yeah,
this is
Lindsay.
really good and it's on point. In my opinion, no, I agree with you, Finkel. So the
Hey,
thing
I got
is
some real life shit I got to go do. I'll pop back on here in like 30 minutes. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm the most important person here. So peace.
later, man. But it's really on point. Because so I have this. I say it over and over again. I have a little more compassion. I have this deep compassion for the crazy guy in the corner. Right, I have this deep compassion. I understand what he's going through, and what I mean by that, he's crazy. He's yelling, screaming in the corner. There's nobody around him. He's just screaming into the void. And I look at that and I say, this guy's got problems. And I have compassion for that, deep compassion. But particularly, those who cannot change in the moment, I seriously have a compassion for them because I know that they are struggling more than I am. And I have all the time in the world, right? So it's like speaking at a city hall. I love using this example. You get 2 minutes. Now, we might give the crazy guy, 3, and I might retract a minute of my time because of that compassion. I'll give him an extra minute. And so it's that compassion as to why I do. I respect the troll less than I respect the silly guy,
Yeah, but the thing is, at some point, like I was getting at, you can become an enabler also.
I agree.
When some
Yep.
people don't want to recognize the issue and you got everybody around you trying to help you and you still just wallowing in your whatever, then, that's when I disengage. And I have empathy, sympathy, compassion, and everything else, but I refuse to be held emotionally hostage to anybody, regardless of what they're going through. We all got issues.
Yeah,
Well,
and I would say
I've said this already for things like you said you immediately give 100% and people lose it. I've learned over time, not everybody's deserving of my respect. So therefore I reserve certain things out for my own character people. You either get care, maybe you see me the combination. You get care, mercy, and grace. I don't owe you respect. That's earned.
And a good example of that is the coastal rescue people. Like if they're like trying to save someone who's drowning, if they're flailing and all that kind of shit, it's like they're trained to actually put them under the water, try and knock them out, so then they can bring them safety. Because if you try to save someone who's flailing all the stuff, they'll just drag you down under the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then they are physically doing something that loses your respect. That is why I say you start at 100 just for being born. Now you can lose it, and you can lose it quickly, but that doesn't mean you can't gain it back quickly if necessary too, right? So yeah, just like I don't know you, right? And we're both walking down the street, right? And now we're or the sidewalk, and I'm on one side, right? And you're on the other side, and we're walking past each other. Like I don't know you. I'm going to give you the 100% respect. I'm not going to get in your way. I'm going to keep walking on my side. But if we're both walking in the middle and I decide I'm going to budge to the right and you decide you're going to budge to the left, I'll give you that same respect. But then if I budge to the right and you stay in the middle, you begin to lose respect, and you lose more and more for each step you take.
Hey, Teriyak, I want to speak to the analogy you made about the water, because I have one that's similar and it's helpful to me. And what I want to share with you guys is the analogy that I use where people make the statement sink or swim, right? And whenever I apply that to real life, I see it in a lot of different instances to where some people can be so afraid of reality and so afraid of what can happen that they work against themselves, and won't do nothing because they're so afraid of whatever the outcome could possibly be. Like, I literally got pushed into a pool whenever I told my cousin that I didn't know how to swim. He threw me in the pool in the deep end, and I doggy paddled my ass to the side of the pool. And I looked at him crying, said, "What you do that for? You know I can't swim." And he looked me dead in my face and said, "You swim." But I know that there's other people that are so scared of the water, you push them in there just from the fear, they're going to just drown. They won't even have enough sense to save themselves because they're just so overwhelmed with fear. And I use that into my life to motivate me not to be scared to take steps out on a ledge. You know what I mean? There's people that can drown in 5 feet of water simply because their own fear. You know what I mean?
Fear,
100%.
Yeah.
fear of being acknowledged for what you can do is another reason people don't strive for success. Uh, I was Navy before I was Army, so when I got in the Army, they quickly learned that I was a prior service Navy. So every time an infantry unit would go to float tests, they'd say, "Hey, Finkel, you're prior service Navy. You're teaching all the non-swimmers." So I'm like, "Oh, fuck, here we go again." So yeah, my fear of doing something successful, that's one way it manifests itself. You end up doing something you don't want to do. I'd rather go play in the water with the big boys than teach the little boys how to swim. I know that's not a game, right?
Can you hear me okay? I keep trying to
Yeah,
talk,
can
but
hear you.
my voice is pretty
I,
wimpy. I think there is a lot of fear in everything we do, and right here and right now, and relating this to the topic of be better for yourself, not everybody else, for yourself. I noticed the paradox of control, and the paradox, and it plays out in this theme here in this room, as well as in our personal lives. And I think that if we acknowledge this paradox in control, we could have a better life. So that's how I'm tying it in. And what I mean by the paradox of control is that when you start getting close to self-awareness, the scarier it gets. You see things you're not going to want to see. You're not going to want to acknowledge. Somebody's holding up a mirror, and it's not the cute little smile that you expected. It's dirty. It's filthy. It's full of wrong. It's full of bad thoughts, whatever you can think, because we're all human. We all have these thoughts. It's full of maliciousness, manipulation, all the sides that we hate about ourselves. And then that's where the paradox comes in, because you go, whoa, this is scary. I've got to pull a red herring. I've got to say, hey, look at that over there. Look at this, or oh my, the house needs cleaning. It gets too close for comfort and can overpower you. So while we need it to make the best possible decisions we possibly can, what could be better than knowing the truth when you're trying to make a good decision, rather than bullshit? So you want this truth, but it's scary. So there's the paradox. And if you have too much, you want to leave and you want to take off. And then it's cyclical. And I was going to tell you a little story. Like couple of you told some stories. I was in the car with my grandmother, who was quite an interesting, huge, bitchy, negative, abusive lady. And I had to deal with her because she was my mom's mom and she was around. I made the best of it. And finally, I got up enough courage to ask her why, in so many words, she was so abusive and hateful. And I didn't put it like that. I didn't have the balls as a kid to be that blunt, but that was the basics of my question. And instead of insulting me or telling me something rotten or how bad the world is, or that the girl 3 houses down was raped, which are her favorite types of topics, like what's that Saturday Night Live character? She talks about Auschwitz during birthday parties. Debbie Downer. This is the ultimate Debbie Downer lady. So I asked her that question. I can't wait for the answer. I want to hear what she's going to say. I've finally confronted her, and she says, "Look at that cactus." Red herring. Getting too close, making me look at myself. I said, "Oh, nice cactus."
nice cactus.
So
There's the paradox of control.
I'll ask a new question to the panel. Do you believe that people can truly change, or do most people repeat the same cycles over and over again?
I do believe that people can change.
I think it's both. Yeah, like I think that there are people out there that are capable of genuine change. Even Finkel is a good example in terms of like going to the meetings and actually putting in the work and making a difference in his life. But there are people who are stuck in that, like I said, like that being mentality where it's like, well, I am what I am, and it is what it is. I can't do anything to change or to progress. So I'm just going to live in like what I think I am. And it's a sad sight to see, but it's like we're saying, like you can only change like what's in front of you. You can only play with the cards that you have. You can't play with other people's cards. So it is what it is, you know?
Yeah. People definitely can change at any age. They may not like it. In fact, one of the things people tell me is I got to learn acceptance. And I've got it down to two. I can accept everything in the world except for two things. One is I don't like things the way they are, and two is I don't like change.
I refuse to believe that people can change in a general sense. I do believe it can be hard. You know, I think perseverance is the thing. You know what I mean? Like, whenever you're set in your ways, are you raised in a particular fashion? Then you know your path may be a little bit rougher than others, but that don't mean that it's impossible. So I think, in the most part, unless you know you have some type of mental deficiency, I always throw that out there because I do recognize that people have biological shortcomings, and I accept that. But if you're not, then yes, you're able to change. Is it hard? It can be, and you should try.
Have you heard of the rubber band theory of change? Any of you?
Y'all hear me now?
I've heard it, but remind
Yes.
me.
Yes.
I haven't.
Issue.
Okay. The rubber, in short, I'll try to make it short. I think change is on a continuum, most realistically. It doesn't usually happen like a rubber band where you start from A and you can stretch so far you get to the end of the alphabet to Z, so that you're a completely different person, as if your experiences and who you really are have nothing to do with how you were born, but your personality is developed by age 5. Nobody makes a change, barely, unless you change your brain, that is that drastic. So change is more like a rubber band where you kind of go from A to D, meaning you're flexible to an extent. You're able to change to an extent. But anybody that tries to go from A to Z is not being realistic. You can improve yourself. That's why you can stretch it. But it's always going to shoot you back and in the hand if you try to go from A to Z.
Yeah, you'll meet resistance.
Yeah.
Do you know what
Yeah, I agree with
biological essentialism is? Biological essentialism.
What's essential biologically? I mean, I
That,
can think of some things, but what does it mean?
Like
I
I
got a
mean,
B.
in a sense, it's kind of what you're talking about. Biological essentialism is the belief that people are going
Are
to
you
be
talking about
who they are according to
existentialism?
basically like their race. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be a certain type of people. Your genes will only allow you to be a certain type of person. Do you believe that?
It definitely, well, if you're talking about alcoholism or addiction, I believe that.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe genetics are going to
Nope.
be the factor that makes you the
I'm going to
character that
take
you
that
are.
back and say yes, but I'm going to say your propensities, DNA wise, biology wise, are going to be affected by your DNA. Sure. Does that mean you're necessarily going to be an alcoholic the rest of your life because your dad's 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 dad is? No, it doesn't. So I agree with you there, but
That's the point that I was trying to get at. I think generally your genes can dictate like a certain range of what you can be, but I think ultimately when you talk about personality traits and that matter, like, we have some type of say so in that instance. So I don't believe that we have this dialed in mechanism to where people genetically can only be this type of people. You know what I mean? There's this
so you don't
gradient
buy
to.
the theory that by the time you're 5, your basic personality is developed, such as if you're an introvert or an extrovert. You don't buy that?
I think that could be the case, but my question is, can you overcome it? Like certain things. Like, even if that's the case, I think the more bigger question is not to try to trump you or anything, is that can people overcome different type of things that they don't like about themselves? And I believe so.
Yeah,
I've heard this.
introversion and extroversion is not in your DNA. It's in your upbringing.
I
It's
understand there
in
is.
personality traits. It's in your environment.
I
It's
think
how you respond. It's how you respond to your environment.
I
If
think
it's
there are levels.
nature and nurture, but it still happens by the time you are 5 years old. It's still the same thing. You can't undo your experiences. You can't undo any kind of DNA that would make you lean more towards something than the other.
All the respect, my DNA is very good because every morning that I look myself in the mirror, I say, "Why am I getting so beautiful every day? I don't know how to get ugly."
Kramos, you must be cleaning your mirror off every morning.
There's nature and nurture, and I honestly don't know which is which. As far as, yeah, my dad was an alcoholic, my brother's not. We both saw dad cope by drinking. I learned to cope by drinking. What makes me an alcoholic is once I have a drink, I can't stop until I run out or pass out. My brother can have a drink.
See,
He
I
can
don't
drink.
know if that's BS or not.
Yeah.
AJ,
I don't know. Yeah.
AJ,
I don't know
you
where
would-
the line is between it's in my genes and what I've learned from how I was raised.
or
I,
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I think it's this panel where I recently heard the story behind the stereotypes of chicken and watermelon. And it wasn't because they were born from African heritage. In fact, there are no watermelons in Africa. It's more of the culture of large family gatherings, and those are foods that are easy to feed a lot of people. At least that's what I heard. It might have been this. Was it this
That
panel?
makes more sense.
No, it
Well,
wasn't.
this is the problem that I have with the nature versus nurture argument is that isn't nurturing natural?
Okay, the words sound. Yeah, okay. I get the word.
Well, that depends on
I would certainly
what is your
hope it
definition of
is.
natural when it
You
comes
would
to
hope so,
nurturing,
but
though.
that's not always.
I mean, most, and this is just where it's like the natural part. Most biological forms of life, and it's the only form of life, by the way, which is biological. Most parents want to make sure to nurture their children as much as possible, as well as discipline, hopefully. And it's part of the nurturing process is to discipline. Like it's like you're
right. But
describing.
when they say nature, they mean genetic. When they say nurture, they mean
Environment
Right. It's a
upbringing.
misunderstanding of what nature is.
of
I
what
think
nurture is.
that rings a bell for me because the most important and better change that I have made in my life is with my mother, because my mother is a Gemini. I believe in the astrological configuration, and she has this need of control. Years ago, it was like
Shout out to Gemini.
we get angry. We can be like 3 months without talking, 4 months resentment, and today sometimes I flip and I go to the bathroom and the towel yell, the towel, and I don't I don't I don't get angry with my mother more than an hour.
Let me ask Lindsay a question. So have you never seen somebody in your life that has changed in a substantial way? And I want to give you a few examples of mine before you answer, because for some reason we keep getting back to and excuse me, Kramos. Um, like I've seen people, I've grown up with people, and we say they personality traits are, fixed at like 5, which I don't know if I can agree with that. If that's what the stats say, okay. But I've been to school with people and seen people change as an adult that they wasn't the same person as an adolescent. I've seen people who are complete like whores, men and women that grow up out of that. I've seen people that was in gangs that grew out of that. I've seen people that was in drugs that grew out of that. I've seen people that just have messed up attitudes that grew out of that. You know what I mean? I've seen people change throughout my life, and I would say in a substantial way. You know what I mean?
We got
Have
the
you
term
not?
late bloomers.
Yeah, I have to.
Okay.
I understand. There's all kind of changes. I think you can change in a good way, in a bad way, and I think it depends on what you are feeling, what do you want to feel, and if you have a goal, or I've been there, if you're not interested in life at all, you can change in that way too.
I agree. The saying is, if you want to change your life, the things around you must change. That means your environment.
Yeah,
I
o sea,
don't want to be around anyone who thinks that change is impossible. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of life is that?
Change
You
Well,
is
know,
not, not
inevitable.
dude, but that's what we have for a lot of people who be in the hood. They never leave the hood, and then they wonder why life don't change for them.
Every biological being that stays static cannot survive and cannot live. So I absolutely say that change is necessary and excuse me,
Uh, well, I don't know
unavoidable.
about that because
Okay.
prior to the life that we had now, let's just be honest, most people only knew farming. It's the only way they had to live. Most villages, everybody has a farm because that's the only way they know of living. And so most recent for people in India, they had never got on an airplane because there was never a reason to. Even in this era that we're in now, there were people who have just never left their village, doing exactly what their grandparents, their parents, and their grandparents, and their great grandparents did.
That doesn't mean they haven't changed.
Yeah, she's speaking to
right?
the
Like
whole of a
self change.
person. Yeah, the way they think, the things they do.
Correct.
Something is always going to change. I no longer have a nice brown goatee. It's white. I could do nothing to change my life, and that's still going to happen. There's going to be change. It may not be the change other people want. It may not be the change I want, but things are always changing.
And I think we got to stop conflating like change as far as just like, things change through time and evolution, uh, opposed to, like changing your mannerisms, your ethics, your morals. Those are two way different types of change.
change is possible in many ways if you feel and if you have the will and the awareness. There's no change if there's no awareness, I think.
It
That's
takes
it.
courage
That's the
too.
point. It
Mm.
people
And,
things change for people who wish to have change.
and like the thing
Yeah,
with changes is it's progressive or regressive.
I'm I am I'm 100% sure I've changed for the better, and I'm 100% sure my ex-wife has changed for the better. But I'm pretty sure if we got in the same house today, when we passed each other in the hallway, we would have hallway sex.
What the fuck?
The same old Finkel.
That, that,
I'm
that's
telling you,
what they
there are
said, yeah.
paradoxes all over the place.
Well, hallway sex is when you pass each other and say "fuck you."
Yeah. Okay. That's not what I had in mind. It's never good when you
um
say your ex is better off as an ex.
if I may, I don't know if you know the book of Viktor Frank about logotherapy that is
The meaning of
called, yeah, yeah. For me that book was an before and after in my life, because when you think, hey, you're in suffering or in a dark place, uh, nothing has meaning or sense. That book for me was like the most important thing that I've learned in my life. The wheel of meaning, to have the wheel. Oh, everything is bad. That's nothing makes sense. This life has no meaning. But if you don't have the will to find meaning, it's impossible. There's no change. But when you find, in my case, when I found out my will to put meaning and feel the value of meaning in my life, hey, bro, for me, it was like I share this book with everybody I know,
I love that book.
because it's so powerful. And logotherapy, the difference of psychotherapy is logos, is the spirit. With the logos, I think you can take the analysis of yourself in higher. position.
All right. New question for the panel is going to be: when was the last time you genuinely admitted that you were wrong about something? Something important. Something important made that. The
Today.
last time you admitted that you were wrong about something important.
You're talking
Let's
to a bunch
see.
of narcissists. Just
I'm
kidding.
gonna think on that one. Important. You said important. So that's
Important.
the key word.
Genuinely admitted that you were wrong about something important.
Yeah, so for me, the probably the easy example or the most recent example is that I had a debate against Jim Bob, and I was so sure I was right about this argumentation. And he basically kind of like took me through it, just broke down the whole argument in terms of like, okay, what do you mean by truth? What do you mean by like you're presupposing all these things? And I basically kind of like, even during the debate, I had to say, yeah, like Jim Bob, you're right. I mean, which is again, you're on camera in front of an audience, all that stuff. It's a very difficult thing to do, but it's one of those things that like since that debate, I've had two other debates from that stem that I've kind of thought about and like developed my kind of thinking about it. And for me, at least, it's like the whole kind of concept of like there being that divine intelligence or unmoved mover or God for some people. Where for me, it's like now I'm 100% sure that like there is that being that exists. So yeah, like for me, like that was kind of one thing that it's like yeah, like I genuinely had to sit down and say I'm wrong about this, even though I was so sure before, like I'm clearly wrong about this. But from going through that like failure or whatever, it's like what I learned from it is just like it was probably one of the most valuable experiences of my life.
I agree that the key is identifying what's important. Admitting when I'm wrong is part of my 10th step. Continue to take personal inventory when we're wrong, promptly admitted it, but I'm wrong on little things and I'm wrong on big things, and it may be different perceptions as to who's thinking about it. I was wrong when I came on this panel, and I thought for sure by now Brick and I would be screaming at each other. I was wrong, I admit it, but I don't think that's really important. I think it's important to acknowledge that I'm wrong, that I have a stack of mail in the back that's getting very tall, and I need to open that shit and read it. I'm also wrong for going past my alarm to remind me to go to work. You guys have a good night. I have to go to work.
Good to see you, Finkel.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Stopping by. Huh.
I'm trying to think of a substantial thing. I'm wrong all the time on small things, and I don't mind admitting, but something substantial as of late, I'm trying to think.
I got something.
I like to give examples, so
Yeah, I got something. You know, I was young once. I didn't understand the way the world works. I didn't understand certain dangers. It was a point where I didn't see anything wrong with having one and then getting behind the wheel. I understand it now. I did have to go through some things in order to understand the importance. You know, I'm sure folks know by now a little bit of my story, but you know, just understanding that concept that it really doesn't matter what you're under the influence of if it's going to impair your judgment. It's bad. It is bad. It can lead to some horrific things that have generational consequences, right? And so I didn't know it, and now I do. I didn't believe it. Now I do. I mean, that's a massive change. And it's that willingness, whether for the reasons of, you know, force, which was the case, but also the willingness for social pressure, right? Regardless of whichever was pushing me to that goal, or maybe even financial. That definitely had some reason. That right there, that's a massive change in someone's life. If it's so detrimental to you and the others around you, or even people you don't even know, and you're unwilling to change that, I mean, these are the things. These are the things that can, like I said, have generational consequences.
Anyone else? I'm trying to think of something myself.
These all aren't perfect.
I think.
about to get
Sorry, go ahead.
pedantic for clarity. You said the most recent time we were wrong, or did you want
Just what was the last time? The last time you genuinely admitted?
Okay, thank you.
For me, is like value myself in terms of sometimes I do things work without protecting myself in terms of please come do this work in this project and I will pay you, and then nobody pays me, and wait a minute and wait and I don't regret to believe and to trust, but I think I feel bad when I see myself being used, and I think that's why I associated with value of myself, because I need to be the measure I need to take in order to feel better and not to feel bad, to feel used. I need to be um, protective of myself, not to trust that easily in some people, because I believe I trust, and before years ago I didn't trust anybody. I was like enemy of the world, and after that I change and I get the other extreme. So sometimes I've been used, and I think recently I did a year of work for a project, and now there maybe we can pay you, maybe we cannot, and I'm like okay, I can be anger and take matters into my control and demand it, and I resist to do that because I'm gonna feel worse, but I do feel bad by being used. So I think I'm wrong when I trust so easy in somebody promising something.
You're very trusting. Yeah, that can be
Well,
very
I'll say
detrimental.
this. I'm married, so I'm wrong every day about something. So my wife can tell you better than me. I find myself apologizing every day about something that I did wrong. So, you know,
I think the
every
last time,
day.
the only thing that really stands out for me, last time I could really remember admitting that I was wrong, was literally not taking advice from my girlfriend about how I was about my addiction was being a workaholic, and not taking off the kind of time that I did because I had to learn the lesson of burning out. Now, keep in mind, after that, I had to lick my wounds, my pride, all kind of other stuff that kicked in. But that free time that I had to help me develop, to help me branch out, that helped me not for nothing even get started with all this. That helped me be in a different space where I was able to do a lot of personal development. When she was saying you should just leave, you would just leave. Like she was like when I say like she would be like, I can't wait to the day you quit. She was like, yeah, you definitely need to quit. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. I don't need like that was the last time when it finally happened, and it took me like a couple of months when I finally just went, no, you were right. I should have done this a while ago. Like, you were telling me this for like over a year, and I did not listen. You're absolutely right. That's the last time I can really truly remember admitting that I was like genuinely wrong. What's going on, Clue?
Yo, what's up, Resla? What's up, everybody on the panel?
Hey, Clue.
We're talking about things we've admitted to wrongdoing.
Not wrongdoing, just admitted genuinely the things that we were wrong about something, especially something that was important.
Yeah, I think I said in the chat, religion. See, back in 2011, I thought that atheism was the way to go. That's the way you battle all these battles in religion. Is if everybody in the world became atheists, then we'd solve all that. I was so wrong about that, and I admitted it to my very religious family that I was wrong about that. It's not the way to go, because we're living in an atheist nation now, or let's say we lived in it for 4 years, and it's been freaking terrible.
What nation?
The United States was an atheist nation for 4 years, especially. And it hasn't been good for us at all. So yeah, that was
probably
mine.
a little more than 4 years now, but I
a little more than 4, but it really climaxed the last 4 years.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by that. I can see some aspects of that.
Actually, so I would like to comment on something that Uncle Fatty mentioned in the chat, which I actually completely agree with, and it was just something that I had considered about. Because when I mentioned being under the influence, right? So he mentioned that we're all under the influence of self-doubt or self-preservation of projected self-image, ... etc. In other words, I'm assuming. And so, yes, and that's, so it immediately took my mind to aggressive driving, right? Somebody cuts you off, you know, and that sort of thing, right? So, yeah, you know, that self-image that I can't be shown up, not on the roads, not in my town, not in my city. But yeah, that
But you're
influence.
that asshole.
But that influence of the ego, the self-image, right? That view that your self-worth is more than the next man on the road's life. No, it's really not. That's my opinion, of course. But that is somewhere, of course, in the past, you know, being a young man, I was wrong. And eventually I had to admit, you know, this is another place where I'm wrong at. For sure. 100%. You live, you learn, you grow, you be better.
Okay. All right. I got one more question for you guys on the panel. It's going to be one of the most important ones I want to ask. If your life isn't where you want it to be, right? Do you think it's mostly external factors, or is it the result of your own choices?
Ooh.
My own choices. It's my fault I'm not where I need to be. Completely my fault.
100%.
Due to the procrastination, I'm too busy to think about my goals. Let me focus on this job that I have right now. Yeah, I don't blame external on this.
I'm going to say it's both, but it's very little on the external. You can't avoid nature. You just can't. You are born where you are born. There's not this biological factor. I don't believe that. But you're raised in the family that you're raised in. You go to the schools you go to, you know, and then eventually you are choosing a job. That's where your choices begin. Well, there's some other choices that are in there when you're young as well. You know, the type of people that you choose, or I choose to be around. and that influences me as well. And so I have to make those choices, but there's very little external factor. And I want to make that clear. Yes, there are some, but if you choose to stay within the parameters of those physical boundaries, yeah, that's gonna be that's gonna be on you. It's gonna be a tough sell for someone to say, yeah, it was not my fault. It was what happened around me, what happened to me. Yeah, there's some of that. Yes, 100%. And for some, it's actually a little bit more. I will admit that too. Like if you get hit, then like you're driving and you get hit, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're going through the green light. Somebody runs a red light. That's something you could not control. You may become paralytic. And it's tough, and there's some things you'll have to deal with. But, there's the mindset that you might adopt in those instances, which is also another tough thing to deal with. But it's minimal in comparison to the alternative.
Will you ask the question again, Resla?
Sure. The question is, how did I say it?
How much?
If life isn't what you want, if your life isn't where you want it to be, do you think that it is mostly external factors or the results of your own choices?
Mostly my choices. There are some external factors, but as I have grown, I have realized not as much as I once thought. And the reality that I am in is the reality that I have created for myself. I would say 70%. You know what I mean? If not 100, but
Yeah, because you can bend your reality if you're willing to put in the effort.
I agree with that one.
It's all about effort, though. You gotta be willing to put in that effort, the sacrifice to bend your reality to what you'd want it to be.
I think human being. Sorry.
The work ethic. You have to have the work ethic. Yeah, that's it.
I think human beings don't build anything. I think the only capability that we have is to choose which circumstance to habitate, because life for me is change, infinite change of circumstances. So I can choose to go here or to go there. Uh, my choices can exist thanks to a higher power, in my opinion. The most easy and effortless thing for the human being is to complain and to judge. I can be dying in the hospital and I can complain about the food or the nurse. But to build an idea, a solution, takes a little more effort. I think what is going to happen is going to happen regardless your choices. You will get there. And the only thing I see could change the path is when you do evil. When you intentionally do evil, uh, everything will surround you and extinguish your evil inside. If you don't do evil, your choices may be wrong or right, will get you there, regardless, whatever you think. And to be aware of that is for me to be thankful of my health, and because I can get up in the morning.
Makes sense.
But you believe humans can build, right? Like
Material, yeah, but not the circumstance.
Well, I would think we can build on that too. It just depends on what choices
Yeah,
we
you
make
don't
to
think
get
that
to that
there are
circumstance, right?
yeah, you don't think that there are human beings who create circumstances for themselves?
Contribution is what I think the human being can make inside the circumstance, but the circumstance is already there. We do not build
So
circumstances. That's what I believe.
To Kramos's point, there's a thing called like the illusion of choice, right? To where, let's say we want to eat healthy or whatever, but our options are what they are, and we believe we eating healthy, but then the majority of the deaths is by heart disease, which is caused by food. Or let's say we want to choose to live in a certain neighborhood, but our circumstances dictate that we can't because we were born into a certain situation, that type of deal. So my question would be to piggyback off of Kramos, how much of the situation that we are in is due to the illusion of choice or from our own, bad choices or good choices, if that makes sense.
For me, it's simple. I understand the question. Appreciate it. I thank you. I'm thankful for your question because my point is exactly that one. Did you choose where you were born and under which parents?
Mhm.
We don't choose that. With
mm,
that
Right.
start,
Yeah, but you don't choose where you're born,
everything,
but you can choose where you live.
yeah, you can
that's a
choose where you
circumstance.
in.
Later,
That's a
later you can.
circumstance.
That's
Later.
just his opinion, though. We don't necessarily have to
Yeah,
disagree
yeah, it's
and
my
debate
opinion. I'm
him.
not telling the truth. It's my opinion because
Right.
if I was born in Cuba with the Chilean parents who were exiled from the dictatorship in Chile, I didn't choose that. But everything else after that is built. I can
Well,
make contributions and I can build uh, material initiatives to help others or to help myself or my family. But the
yes.
circumstance is there.
Yeah. And
And
just to
indeed,
kind of say
let me
that
say one
as,
more thing.
yeah, go ahead.
To give another example, I have one of my best friends is doing life in prison, and when I tell people that who know him, nobody is surprised if you know how he was raised. Like he had an alcoholic mother. His father wasn't in the picture. She talked to him like he was a piece of trash. You know what I mean? Just in a horrible situation. And whenever I talk to people later on in the third, and whenever I look back, even me myself could have predicted the situation he was in, that he's in now, according to his environment and how he was raised. It's
Yeah. And so I was just going to say, like, where is Forrest when you need him? Forrest, run on up here because life is like a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're going to get. And both are happening at the same time. You have circumstances that you have to deal with, and you have to make choices.
I
Yeah,
want to
but
Well,
you
tackle
don't.
this question a little bit.
even not making the choice, it's still making the choice. But I just want to give this particular announcement. We are running 10 minutes until we are about to close things out. So we can just have the conversation, we'll see where it goes, and hear everybody else's thoughts. You were going to
I
say
So
want to
something?
chime in.
good.
The way I'm thinking about your question is that I look for utility and I find more into utility not in asking how much blame do I have in this or what do I have to blame, but what now? What do I do now? What do I do in the here and now? Here's what is, here's what I have to deal with. What I can use and what I can do is what I'm going to focus on. Not that I couldn't straightforward answer your question and say, yes, I'm absolutely partly responsible. I can do that because I'm pretending like you have a gun to my head and I must answer yes or no. But really how I think of things is very individually. And I wish I was, you know, I wish I held the beliefs of somebody very astute and popular and of nobility, but I don't. I took a quote that I heard from Dirty Harry, and it was adapt, improvise, and overcome. And when I'm faced with any particular situation, I ask myself, how am I adapting? Because it's a problem, it's bothering me. How am I improvising? Which is the answer to what now? And how do I get to where I want to be, which is the future, and overcome it? And that way I'm not overwhelming myself with shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and keep it in the present and keep it healthy. None of this acerbic toxicity, killing brain cells and worrying about who's to blame. No thanks. Who needs it? Okay, I'm done.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I was gonna say, like, so yeah, kind of in the same kind of mindset. I don't have a teleportation device, unless you want to call the human body that teleportation device, right? So I can only move the body that I have. I've got my limbs, I've got my head, I've got my chewing device, my mandibles. I can eat food that's healthy for me. I mean, I live in this physical body. I have a brain, contrary to popular belief, and I can change my views sometimes according to what I want to believe, but it does require work. It does require, at least if nothing else, small increments of movement. I can't change from A to Z immediately. Well, it's not entirely true. I could, but it could lead to some detrimental effects,
It could lead to
mentally, physically.
burnout.
Burnout, yeah. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible, right? So if I had a teleportation device, you know, I would be using it for some probably nefarious things. I ain't gonna lie.
The women's restroom.
So,
no, I wasn't even thinking about that.
Easy, and just let you know, I'm about to close out real soon. I don't. If you want to still come up, we can have a call real quick. But I'm about to close up real quick.
That's all good. That's all good. If you're gonna close up, that's all good. I just was listening in just for the last little bit here, so
I gotta go eat. Respect to the panel. Thank you for hearing me out. And I'm closing right now. See you later.
Lindsay, hey.
Later.
Thank you, Lindsay. So I'll pose the. Did you get the last question I gave?
I didn't get the question, but by everyone's answers, I think I might know what the question is. But you can go ahead and.
So the last question I was asking people is that if your life isn't where you expected it to be, do you think it's mostly due to external factors, or it's because of the results of your own choices?
Yeah, see, that's what I thought you asked. Exactly. And yeah, I think it's 100% result of your own choices. Like, especially like the further you are into being an adult, the further it's definitely like the more it is on your own choices. Like, I get some people come from like rough places, but you're ultimately the one who can turn that around if it's going to turn around, right? Like, it's not, nobody's going to be able to do that for you. I've seen dudes that like they've had addiction problems their whole life. They get lucky on some lottery ticket, win a whole bunch of money that could have like set them up to get started with something nice, and it's gone within a month. Like that, you know what I'm saying? So like, you can't just help people like that. Like, it's ultimately on you, always.
All right. Sounds good. I want to give you guys a little bit of your closing thoughts. I know Easy, you just got it here, but give you guys your closing thoughts of the episode, and then we'll end it from there. Teriyaki first. Then I'll go for Brick, Do, Kramos, James, Clue.
Yeah, so
yeah, I'm just gonna hop out, but I do want to ask one question, Resla. I really had one question I had to ask.
Okay, well, what's the question?
All right. I just want to know where I go for the Kramos's Vegeta cut, bro. I need to know.
Oh my God.
Where I go to get this Vegeta cut.
Come again?
The Vegeta cut, bro. How do what hairdresser do I go to so I can get the Vegeta cut, bro? I'm trying to go Super Saiyan.
I don't cut my hair, bro. This is my heritage from my grandfather.
Your
that
grandfather's Vegeta, bro. All right, Resla. This panel's too famous for me. Much respect to you, bro. All right, thanks for having me up.
All right, man.
Good to see
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, Terry, what you were saying?
Yeah, so in terms of the, like, again, shout out to Reza for bringing up the topic. It's a very profound topic. Like the whole kind of, like, you know, to become better, like this whole kind of state of like being versus becoming. And like that cancerous mentality where it's like you're stuck in that state of being. I can't change all this stuff. Like you're basically stuck in that static mind frame where you're never going to be able to improve unless you actually like dissect it down and realize it's about becoming, not about being. And it's like I said, it's a seductive mentality that it's someone else's fault, and like, because it's far easier to think of an excuse than to actually think of a solution. So if we can all kind of like hold each other accountable, I think the world will be a better place.
That's what's up. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Brick.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. And much like you know, my analogy of walking down the sidewalk, you know, and showing that respect, that start at 100.
Yeah.
If we treat each other that way, if I treat you that way, you treat me that way, what we're doing is we're actually bringing each other up, right? So we're all walking upright as we continue down our way, and then we meet each other. And so the other option is to push each other down. And that's not a good option. And I don't want to be like that. What I'd rather do is to bring each other up. There's either up or there's down. And then, of course, there's stagnant, which I don't believe that anybody is stagnant. Nobody is stagnant. You're either on the way up or you're on the way down. And these are the movements of life. So, yeah, just great panel. I'm really happy that you did a part 2 on this. We got some really great points in tonight. So thank you.
No problem. Great most.
Hey, I'm gonna read a very short paragraph to say goodbye. It says, finding meaning in the sense of logotherapy means being aware of the meaning of the moment, perceiving what needs to be done right now, and realizing this possibility of meaning in order to act meaningfully. The sun is shining and I am mentally on vacation, but there's still many reports to be written. What is my purpose at this moment? Probably, unfortunately, it's not about jumping into the pool, but about getting to work. But the meaning of the moment changes from hour to hour, from minute to minute. Maybe I still have time for a swimming session when I'm done working. With this motivation, it suddenly becomes much easier for me to write. So
Sounds good.
the idea.
I didn't know you were done. I didn't know
Sorry,
you were done.
sorry. The idea to finish is when you have the wheel. I think you can change the difficult situations into even a joke. Thank you.
All right, James.
Well, if we could just, as human beings in general, just remove the things that are hindering us from being better and work together to be better, the world will be a much better place. Simple as that.
Clue.
I think there is outside forces that keep us from uniting. That I believe in. I think we need to fight against that and actually unite. I mean, actually, I don't mean online. I mean in person. Actually unite. Actually find our common threads. Because there's this saying that I hate so much, and that is embrace your differences. I hate that. Embrace your common threads. Tolerate your differences.
That
Always
sounds better.
believe that. I always believe that. And that's how you fight against the forces that want to divide us.
Here.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you guys for actually showing up to the panel. Great discussion today. Happy that I actually did both with the part two. Really got a lot of good stuff. I'm pretty sure the audience as well heard a lot of great things, of course, that they can take to their friends, their families, their coworkers. I think we've actually shaped a little bit of minds. We've done a little bit of some good stuff today, and I do appreciate you guys for actually coming up here and sharing a little bit of your time with me. I do appreciate that. As always, you guys feel free to always come back on the panel. All right, I'm gonna have
Appreciate
my
you
little
hosting, bro.
time. Have my time with everybody else.
Hey, just to announce, I'm gonna make a live in a half an hour. If somebody wants to join, you are invited. I'm gonna analyze some answers that I received from the DeepSeek, and I did a comparison with the other engines. If you want to go there, maybe you can find out what answers did I receive.
All right, you heard it. Kramer's about to have a stream up in about 30 minutes if you guys are interested. All right. So, a lot that happened here. We had a lot of panelists in there with a lot of great thoughts about the actual conversation. And we started out, of course, the monologue of just having this conversation when it came to when did we miss the where we missed the point, and quite frankly, some people missed the point. I'll try to go a little bit of the last question as well, where I think there's going to be a lot of people who will tell you that it's the system. It's going to be people that's going to have different circumstances. They're going to say it's bad luck. They're going to say people are holding them back. And sure, there are going to be some external factors that are going to have a role to play. Nobody's denying that, right? But at what point do we take a look at our own choices? At what point do you stop blaming everything outside of you and start taking a look at your own responsibilities of the things that you know yourself to be in control of? I think if your life isn't where you want it to be, you need to ask yourself how much of that is because of the decision that you made, the opportunities that you didn't take, the bad habits that you refuse to break, the mindset that you continue to hold on to and you won't let go of. You see, external factors exist, but they don't define you, folks. You're still in response to everything you do. At the end of the day, we all have choices. We can either focus on growth or we can focus on grievances. We can either hold ourselves accountable or we can waste our time blaming others. I think what happened on this panel was a very great conversation. I'm sorry that we didn't really get a lot of that last time. Personally, if you guys choose that you want to do better, you want to be better, all you have to do is make sure that you're on the right track and then stay on it. I think you have to be willing to engage with, of course, hard questions. You have to stop making everything about everybody else. Of course, keep it all on yourself. Because only you matter at the end of the day. Only the choices that you make matter at the end of the day. So I'll leave you with this. The best life that you've got right now is the one that you're holding on to. How have you contributed to that life? And how do you plan in the future to contribute to it? Are you making the best choices? Or are you just making the best excuses for yourself? Because at the end of the day, the only person responsible, folks, is you. That being said, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and of course, guys, stay opinionated. I will see you on the next one. Appreciate your brick for the $2.99 super sticker. Appreciate you, my guy. Appreciate you. Have a good night, folks. I'll see you in the next one.